go back to our discussion.
Okay, so we should be live now.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Good evening. So this is like, I think 7:05. I call the meeting to order for the Park and Rec Commission meeting here. And let's first one is the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And so sorry, I'm maybe just looking at that. Whitney, can we do a roll call, please?
Yes, so Chair Kumarapan,
Here.
Vice Chair Stanek,
Here.
Commissioner Tambe,
Here.
Commissioner Begor,
Maybe on mute.
Here.
and Commissioner Shu.
Here.
Excellent. So again, I know maybe I don't know. So the people are on it. Let me take a look at it. How do I see those folks in the participant list, attendees and stuff? I just want to double check.
Yes, we have 6 attendees currently.
Yeah, there are 7 attendees. at
7.
this point. Yeah, 7 of them. Okay, great. Thank you. So, so let's go ahead on the first agenda. We have an approval of minutes, and this is about the meeting we had on June 4th, and that draft minutes was posted. I just want to make sure that anybody has any comments on it from the commissioner's side on the minutes. Can we go one by one? I don't know, Alicia, please.
So I just wanted to add to the item number 3. I know we went through all the committees, but we, like in other sections, we added discussion, and I was curious as to why that wasn't. I know there was a lot of discussion, so I was just curious as to why none of that was reflected.
Is this about the community fund?
Yeah, the community funding item. It just shows the vote. It doesn't show anything else. But
Oh, so okay. So the ask is, the clarification is that whether, because we talked about a lot about priority, tier 1, tier 2, and none of those things were reflected. Is that the question?
yes, but well, more specifically, like it's, I feel like it's a out of context, like no vote. And I just wanted, like, there was a difference between saying recommended for funding and optional funding. And that was what the motion was, but like there was nothing on the discussion. So I was just curious if we were synthesizing that, or if we were and I was just curious why it's different than other sections.
So I guess that's me because I put the minutes together. Pretty much there was a lot of discussion, and because there was a lot of back and forth, what I typically try to do in the minutes is just put down any recommendations that they have, or any information that might, like questions that might have been asked that maybe should have been included in the staff report or something, some information that would be valuable on the item. And so there are certain things that were mentioned that you'd prefer are in there. I can always go back and include more discussion, but yeah, that's kind of how I put them together.
Okay, so the only
it's not super clear.
The only part that I wanted to clarify or add to this, I guess, would be my amendment once the motion is made, because we're not technically in a motion to discuss, but we would be to add, would be to amend it so that it says that, you know, we decide that the commissioners decided on the spot that to create this tiered system, and that didn't exist. Like, that was at the request of city council. That was not a part of our initial process.
Yeah. So maybe I think, Whitney, I think it makes, maybe we will add some more. I think what you captured is the final results at the high level. Maybe if some of the nuances needs to be captured, maybe I think we should at least on those specific areas, because it was not discussed on the tier 1, tier 2, we are proposing it. So who proposed it, how it ended up, and all those things. Maybe we can capture it. If you think, Commissioner Nisha, if you think that has to be appended, let's definitely, we will append it. Is there anything else? Or you just want to discuss much more?
No, that's it. I just wanted one liner to explain why there were tier 1 and tier 2, because that was the reason why I had voted no. And so I just want people to understand why there was a new tiered system when that wasn't in the application process at all. So I just want that to be clear. So once we make the motion, I'll make a formal amendment.
Sure. No, sure. Absolutely.
That was my only thing. Otherwise, I think it's great.
Awesome. Great. Any other comments from any other commissioners? I think you're all unmuted at this point. I see it. Carol, no, I think unmute you too. Vice Chair. Any other comments from anyone, or you can raise your hand visually?
No, that's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
I mean, generally our minutes are summary minutes, and so they're pretty cryptic. I have to say, it's not something that I'm generally comfortable with. If you go back and look at minutes, they do not reflect the
actual discussion.
Yeah, the discussion.
Detailed discussions. I understand.
Yeah, it's often how it is, but I think it's fair to add something and you can propose that.
Absolutely.
So do we want to just move? So I'm going to go ahead and move to approve the minutes. There needs to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, Director, but I believe it's a move to approve, then there'll be a second, and then I can make my motion for an amendment. Or can I make the motion with the amendment?
No, I think my recommendation is that we can make a motion with amendment what's required, and then we can just go.
Great. I'd love to, I move to approve the meeting minutes with the amendment of adding the discussion and rationale behind the tiering system for the funding.
Okay.
So just a quick question sorry, I should have raised my hand. So going forward, will we make it a requirement?
We do need a second, and then we can.
Yeah, let's second that, Commissioner, and then we can have any discussion on that one. Anybody second that? But I can go ahead and second. I think I'm still okay, right? I can go ahead and I second it. Now, any discussion? And I think Commissioner Sachi, you said that we have some questions or modification going forward. Would you please?
So the question I have is very simple. So are we going to go from the format of simplified meeting minutes to something with a lot more information on discussion?
No.
I mean,
are we setting a precedence and then we have to follow that, or?
No, I think.
I'm asking. I don't have an opinion. I'm just asking because.
Yeah, so maybe let me make a quick comment on that one, Commissioner Dahil. So the main thing is that we don't want to go into detail. It's very difficult, put it together in pages and pages for what we discussed. I think still, I think the summary is fine, but I think in this particular one, that the discussion went on creating a tier 1, which was not there. So at least those key. Okay,
Somebody's got the mute.
Yeah, so those specific decision-making points, in case if it arises, I think we'll like to capture it. Otherwise, it looks like none of them suddenly tier 1, tier 2 kind of. So I think still I personally don't see that it's like putting every line in detailed meeting, but I think it looks like 1 or 2 key decision-making points would be important to capture, and like why tier 1, tier 2, at least in this example. I think we can go a little double click on those decision-making points. That's what I would say to staff, Whitney and the Director Joanne. So we can, going forward, we can capture if there is any specific decisions has been taken and why it is and who proposed and what it is kind of, maybe we can capture. Because later, if you want to refer back, it'll be good to go and refer. Where is it suddenly those, particularly on tier 1, tier 2 came up kind of. So I would say we can go details only as needed. But other than that, I think I'm still good with this. That's my input. Maybe I'll since it's part of the discussion, any other commissioner have any other inputs? That's just my input. Yeah,
Vice Chair Stanek has her hand raised.
Yeah, so I unmuted you already, Vice Chair. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I keep muting myself just to make sure that we don't get background noise. So I wasn't really clear what Nisha's asking to put into the minutes. If you're saying the words that you said should be in the minutes, or you should, are you expecting Whitney to go back and look at the discussion and come up with words? So it seemed to me that we needed a proposal that these words need to be in the minutes. Otherwise, if we don't know what they are, we can't vote on it. It's hard to make that.
So maybe may I ask Commissioner Tampe again to make that what specific line you want to add? I don't think that we want to go back and her to listen to the recording and stuff, but I think you made earlier. So would you please call that out exactly what amendment you want to make, Commissioner Tampe? I think.
I can. I mean, I guess I could amend to like my specific statement at the time, but I wanted to include. I guess how could we say it?
Sorry, I keep hitting mute and then unmute. If you wouldn't mind, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, please go for it.
But probably just something specifically delineating that the specific tiers, how it was structured, the vote was structured on the recommendation of tier 1 of the 3 groups. If there was funding available for tier 2, that was an additional group if funding was available, and that tier 3 was not recommended, is what I recall from the meeting, but correct me if I'm wrong. And Whitney and I can review that to make sure it's very specific based on what the motion was.
Yeah, so I think the part that I wanted to reflect, if I recall correctly, City Council they were asking for our top 3, or did we come up with our top 3?
You came up with that as a commission.
So that's basically what I want to say is make sure it is reflected in the minutes that the tiered funding structure was a decision made, motion to form 2 tiers. I guess technically that's in this motion to form 2 tiers for recommendation as follows. Then I guess my specific amendment is, would be more specific to me, which is, and one no vote from Nisha Tombe on the basis of a tiered system.
Okay, we can rectify that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, with that, if there's no clarification, I think we should go for a vote. Whitney, would you like to?
So Commissioner Begor has her hand raised as well.
So the quick question, can we go and have the motion restated? Because what am I voting on?
So the motion on the floor, correct me if I'm wrong, Chair, was I made a motion to approve the minutes with the amendment to add 1 no vote from Commissioner Tombe on the basis of a tiered system.
Yep. Okay, so I will again, since with the amendments, I second that. And let's go for a vote because no further discussions here. Hello, Whitney, please.
Okay. Okay, so Chair Kamarapam,
Yes.
Vice Chair Stanek,
Yes.
Commissioner Tombe,
Yes.
Commissioner Begor,
Yes.
and Commissioner Shu.
Yes.
So motion passes unanimously.
Excellent. Thank you. So now I'll come to the postponements. I think before the oral communications we have, and it is about the satellite community item number 2, which satellite community garden project. I know it says a staff report there, but I think this is the one, maybe Director John, you can correct me. Did we go for an oral communication first? I know this is the first time we did the postponement and then bring it here. So I think we need to go for oral communication in general first before we do it, right? What is the process? Or can we just go ahead and provide staff provides the reports and then go?
You know, Whitney, do you have further clarification on that? I mean, I usually follow the agenda based on the way that it's put together, but did we perhaps put postponements prior to oral communications on accident?
No, you're on mute, maybe, Whitney. Yeah.
Sorry, that's actually how it populates on its own in a set format. So I believe that's the format that would be recommended because it's structured for each commission that way.
I apologize. I'm familiar with an entirely different format, so I'm still getting used to the city of Cupertino's format. So
no worries. I think we haven't done the postponement and bring it back kind of. This is like, for me at least, for the first time I'm doing it on it. So I'm trying to figure it out. If this is the way, I think we'd like to go for oral communication in general. I think should be as part of the second, because if we start discussing about, I think we're not allowing the attendees in general for, not on the topic, right, to provide any oral communication, because that's how we start all the time. So I would like to go with the oral communications first, and then we can go to the postponement or any, again, I'm doing first time, so I don't want to make any mistake. Is Vice Chair Carol or anyone has any, how do we proceed on it? I don't know. So I just want to go with oral communication being the first one now. Okay.
I think that's fine. If you want to do that, you can.
Yeah, because we haven't done it. I think, I don't know, attendees are waiting, and I'm sure that they might be on specific agenda item, but I want to make sure that attendees, we provide them an opportunity in case if anything not on the agenda item. So let's go for oral communications now. Then we'll come back to the postponements. And in the oral communications, and I think there are attendees on it from public, but if you have anything to discuss with us or share your thoughts or your comments other than the items on the agenda item, I think this is the time. You can go ahead, but if it is anything specific to the one on the agenda item, you can wait once we hit that particular item we have on the agenda. If not, if anything else you want to share it, this is the time. And I want to make sure that how do I know, Whitney, if they want to talk, or should I?
They can use the raise your hand function.
Yeah, I don't see anyone raising.
All of them are attending through their computer, not through phones. So
yeah, so just one final call for the attendees. I think the public who are on the call right now, if you want to talk anything about in generic, not in the agenda item, you can raise your hand. And if not, we will keep moving to it. And I know that many of you may be waiting for some specific item in the line item in the agenda. So let's see, I'll give you a few more seconds. Nope, no other raise hand symbol. I don't see it anything. So that means let's move on to the written communications. Do we have any written communications other than the ones included? I know in the agenda item, I saw that a lot of written communications got included, but do we have any other written communications or start with me?
No written communications were received for this meeting.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. With that, then let's go to the old business, but I would like to bring back the item number 2, which is the postponement item on the satellite community garden project, because we put in the agenda. I want to make sure that we talk about it before we go to the item number 3. So now let's go to the item number 2, satellite community garden project. And I see a staff report.
Sure, I'm happy to provide that update. The satellite community garden project basically fell to a hold position due to the COVID-19 shelter in place order that basically prevented commissioners from performing all the site visits necessary to evaluate various locations. As the shelter in place order has, lessened and people are allowed to go outdoors, our hope is to restart this and to analyze the different locations for the potential satellite gardens. And that's really all I have to report.
Wow, okay. I don't know, let's see. I'm just going back on the PDF. It's not opening it properly. Give me 1 second. So this is like, would like to have any oral communication on this part, any comments from public, right? Because even it's a postponement, it's a report. So we'd like to see any comments from public. If you're on the call, if you want to make a comment, talk about it, you have 3 minutes. Satellite community garden project. And let's see, anybody raising their hand? Nope, I don't see it. I know folks are there. I think I'm kind of familiar with all that is on it right now. So I know what item they're waiting for. With that, if there is nothing else, then any comments from our commissioners? And I know Shashi, Commissioner.
I always seem to have a comment on something or other. But I thought we had already provided a list of places where we wanted to extend the satellite, basically extend the community garden. Didn't we?
If I remember correctly, we have been asked to identify. Initially, there are a couple of locations were identified. That's based on, I recollect my memory on it. Let's see how fresh it is or stale it is.
The commissioners did.
And we have been asked to identify. Go on with it. Sorry. Rick. Maybe let me complete that one. So what I understood, and the previous director Randy was there at the time, we talked about it and said each commissioner took an action item to go and visit some place and come back and suggest. I think we made some progress, I believe, but I think because of the COVID, we stopped visiting, I believe. So we haven't had a chance to go and visit and provide new places or new recommendations from each one of us. I think that's where it was also stopped because of the COVID situation. Maybe Staff Whitney, you can add any more light onto it.
Yeah, you're correct. The next step that we were going to move forward with was having the commissioners then look at those proposed spots and evaluate. And Commissioner Tombe had also recommended looking at parklet opportunities and maybe combining the two options. But that's where we got cut off with COVID, was at that point.
Excellent. Okay, I think since the staff report, Commissioner Tambe, I think they tried to unmute you. It's not on. You got it? Okay.
So I think that something, if we want to, since we have the ability to really go out now and put a little extra fire on our end, I think we can do that and hopefully get that to the staff. Maybe within the next 2 weeks. But the one thing I do think is really important is with this satellite community garden project, specifically because of COVID, is starting to change the way that we look at where a potential community garden can be. It doesn't actually just have to be in a park anymore. There can be other locations. And I think that, my only comment to my fellow commissioners is maybe we can look beyond a traditional park. Maybe we can look in, public-private spaces. We can look in other areas that are non-traditional because there's going to be a lot of changes to accommodate what the needs are for the community because of COVID, not just now, but for the foreseeable future. So I think as we continue to pick those locations, I'd love to see kind of diverse locations as well, not just parks, but other places. And yeah, that's it. But I'm committed to going out in the next 2 weeks and finding new locations, both for parklets and for community gardens, so that we can incorporate that parklet and hopefully help the city develop some outdoor spaces for people to congregate safely and in small numbers with their household.
Sure, and make sure that Commissioner Tambe wear the mask, and right now the more strict contingent things were being put last night, I believe, on the 90 counties. And so, yeah, sure. I mean, I would love to. I'll also try to see that people are not even able to identify me now with the mask, and they're asking, they couldn't identify my voice, but it's okay. Let me go ahead and figure it out. Thank you. I think, again, maybe there's a request to all the commissioners, as long as it is possible, and if you can continue the hunt for really a good location, or as Commissioner Tampe said, if you find another places and creative ways where this can be given back to the community, that would be awesome. Maybe what we can do is that maybe next month's agenda we can bring back and say that is there any updates available from the commissioner. So that's a good point. So I think it's good that we are resurrecting this back again. Thank you. I don't think so. There's no further update. I think I would like to move on to the next item on our list, which is item number 3, update on the coronavirus impacts to our Cupertino Parks and Recreation programs. I'm sure that there'll be more update. As hard as last night, I saw a lot of governors update on overall. So I'm sure that Joan didn't sleep and she was just looking for all the updates this morning to give it to us. And so Director Joan, please.
I don't think I've slept in a month. Just kidding.
Sorry, that's actually our community is, and they will love to have you, but we will not make you tired enough. So thank you.
Actually, Whitney, if you wouldn't mind sharing the screen with everyone, I just think it's helpful to have something to follow along to. So we're going to just provide an update of where we have moved from the last meeting that we had on June 4th to today. So there's not a ton of changes and nothing massively different for Parks and Rec, but just wanted to go over the fact that a new guidance on the use of face coverings, or not new, but an updated guidance on the use of face coverings was released on June 18th of 2020. Wanted to just let you know we were looking into the possibility of potentially offering aquatics programming, but that will not be possible this summer. We have started up camps, and we will go into that in further detail in a little bit here. We have recently updated our virtual recreation website, so we encourage everybody to go to that link and check it out. There's many offerings on there. I think this week is Superheroes Week, a themed week, and as well as we are starting to offer golf, tennis, and personal training lessons, and that is for private and then semi-private if you're members of the same household. Obviously, still implementing social distancing and masks when necessary. Wanted to let you know we have reinstated electric carts at the Blackberry Farm Golf Course, which was a happy addition back to the golf course. Park bathrooms have recently been reopened since our prior meeting, with the exception of the Blackberry Farm bathroom, which is reserved for the camps. So, you know, when they release a lot of these restrictions, some of the adherence requires specific things like cleaning schedules, temperature taking. And so one of the things for our camps is adequate bathroom space that can be monitored. So that's why those bathrooms are unavailable at this time. But once those camps are over, which I believe there's another 5 weeks, we'll reopen those as well. And then just wanted to go over the Cupertino Cares Initiative. The most recent initiative was 4th of July boxes. We were able to distribute 200 boxes to residents. They were delivered yesterday by staff. It actually was the highlight of my first month of work. I got to go visit several different residents with their little kids answering the door, so excited. And Whitney, if you could go to the next page just to show everybody the box that we distributed. Lots of goodies in there. And like I said, a little s'mores kit, which is always a happy addition to a 4th of July holiday. So just wanted to show you guys what, we had over 600 residents request a box. And so, you know, we got a lot of people wanting them, and, you know, we're able to distribute 200. So a lot of happy people out there. So again, happy 4th of July to you all. And then moving on, just wanted to give you a couple of quick updates. So these charts will just show you our golf course use data since we reopened May 11th through June 4th. We had over 2,200 people, or 2,200 rounds of golf happen. And then within this last month, June 5th to the 30th, it, you know, rose quite a bit at over 3,400 rounds. And then moving on to the next slide, we have the Sports Center use data. So this is our tennis court reservations. And so the total reservations from May 11th to June 4th was over 1,300. And from June 5th to June 30th, it was 6,800. I have to tell you, when I left work tonight around 6 o'clock, the tennis courts were packed. I even saw two couples playing pickleball. So the court space is being well utilized. And on to the next. Oops. And then just wanted to give you a quick update regarding our camps. So there is an online, there are 3 online courses that are being offered in coordination with the high school district, the Fremont Union High School District, and there are 665 kids registered for those. Our in-person camps over the last 3 weeks have had 86 people. I think they're not as popular as we were hoping. There are a lot of people, I think, that are just very concerned about having their children come to an in-person camp. And so we haven't gotten kind of the response that we were expecting, but nonetheless, there are some individuals participating. Virtual camps have up to 100 people in them, and then our tennis camps, again, over 100 people. So we're happy to offer this service. There are quite a few restrictions. Kids have to wear masks and socially distance in many of them. So it's challenging, but we are up to the challenge. And I think so far, so good. I was out at Blackberry Farm earlier this week with our nature and science discovery camps, and the kids seem to be having a great time. And the staff is doing a great job making sure people are washing their hands and far away from each other while they're eating their lunch and such. So just wanted to provide that quick update.
That's
Happy
awesome.
to answer any questions.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you, Director. I think you're right. Maybe I should have applied. I was not one of those 600. Maybe I should have. And definitely, I could have got that one goodie. It looks like really nice and with a box, and that's awesome. So thanks for making those 200 plus families making happy. And I think they will be opening up the box. Or they might have already opened the box and decorated everywhere. They won't wait for the July 4th. That's how the kids here are. So thank you. Before I move to the commissioners, I'd like to see open communication on that, oral communication on that part from any attendees. If they have anything to ask or comment on this one. If you are, you can raise the hand. Please correct, there is one caller, 1661 on it. In case if they want to talk about this particular one, they need to press *9. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Wow. My memory is still a little bit okay. Okay, *9. Perfect. So attendees, I think publics, if you're on the call and if you want to talk about anything or make any comment or any questions or anything in general, to make it, you have 3 minutes. And if you want, you can raise your hand through the app or you can press *9. So that will help us. I'll give another few seconds. Nope. No one yet. So let's open it up and here for the commissioners. And I know Commissioner Tampe, you are next. I unmuted it.
Thank you. Well, first up, those boxes, so cool. I mean, it's really something that makes such a human impact on the community. So that's always, really wonderful to see. So thanks. Great. A couple of questions. In terms of the in-person camp, I know that there was a capacity limit, right? So I was actually just curious. I know we only had 86 participants, but I was curious, what was that versus the capacity?
So just off the top of my head, we have a 12 child capacity for each camp. So can't exceed that. But then we also have a minimum to make sure that we're at least breaking even to offer the camp and be able to sustain it. And those fluctuate just depending on what type of camp they are. But for the most part, we're getting, for the people that are attending, we're getting about 8 to 10 attendees in a 12-person camp. And the other ones just aren't making it to the minimum. So they're maybe getting 4 or 6, and so we're having to cancel them.
Okay. So we probably had space for maybe 150 kids and came out with about 86. Is that a good rough estimate?
I don't know off the top of my head, and I don't want to say without really knowing, but I can get that information.
Yeah, I would just be curious, mostly because I've been doing a lot of research about what, as you might have seen earlier, my niece, I'm helping take care of my niece. My brother's a doctor treating COVID patients right now, so his pregnant wife and his daughter are staying with my family. And so we're watching them, and so I'm very interested to understand kind of what the next year's landscape is going to look like, both from a teaching perspective, but also after school programs. And this is just a very good metric for us, I think, to have. So if we could find out what those specs are, that would be great. But yeah, it's a barometer, I think, for us as we design other in-person courses or events and camps for kids going forward. The other question I had was for golf, do we know what the number of participants was? I know we have rounds, but I feel like I would love to see the actual number of unique participants that went to the golf course. I was actually, pleasantly surprised when I found out that a lot of the golfers had actually gone over to Deep Cliff. I know in the past that had been a challenge, but I'm happy to see that they're amicable to that as an opportunity. So I'm curious. I know we had around, a little over 3,500+ rounds played, but I'm curious to know what that actual unique participant number is. It 50 unique people coming, or is it 20 unique, or is it 300 or 500 or 2,000, or what that number looks like?
And I'm not totally sure on the exact way that we take head counts, but we may not be able to give you unique numbers, but we may be able to give you number of people as opposed to rounds. But those people may be repeat customers. So I'll have to get more information, but I can certainly have that for the next meeting.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Thank you. That's it.
Great, thank you. I thought maybe Christine Straub was about to say something. I saw that side. Maybe if you want to say something.
Yes, thank you. No, I was just going to comment that each round is generally reflective of a person playing a round of golf. So you might have 4 rounds of golf in and I don't know offhand because we do spread out the tee times. So, but there could be 4 rounds of golf played in the same, at one particular tee time. So at 9:00 a.m., for example, 4 people are teeing off. Some days it might be 2, it might be 1, but generally the rounds of golf are reflective of the number of people that are playing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just got confirmation that that's accurate. That actually is the number of participants.
Yeah.
Wow.
But not number of unique participants.
Nope.
Okay,
No, right. So yeah, so that could be, you're exactly right. So somebody could have played Monday through Friday every day, right? And, but that is the number of rounds, and therefore we are producing the revenue for each round of play.
Yeah, because I'm just comparing that to like tennis and like other sports, and it's like if more people are doing tennis, then maybe we like need to focus on what's happening in the tennis world rather than what's happening here. So I was just curious, but thank you. That's really helpful.
Yeah.
Excellent. So yeah, not many people interested in golf definitely see that it's going in thousands. Thank you. And I see the next one, I think the hand raised were by Commissioner Zhu. Let me unmute you. But I know maybe with me or anyone can. Yeah, great. Somehow when I try to unmute, it's not allowing me. Commissioner Zhu, please.
It's great to see so many fantastic programs is ongoing in June. And I know that behind that, there's a lot of hardworking city staff. And thank you all for making it happen. And I just have 2 questions. One is for the pool. So last time I remember our city said we may plan to open the outdoor swimming pool. But recently the Santa Clara, the COVID-19 cases surged. So I just want to know the possibility of, in this summer, is it still possible the swimming pool can open or, yeah.
So under the current restrictions, you're required to provide 300 square feet of water space to each individual that's in the pool. And the larger pool at Blackberry Farm has 3,000 square feet of water space. So we could only have 10 people in the pool at one time. And we would need 10 people to staff the pool for lifeguard purposes, access, temperature taking, social distancing, insurance. So it just was not a feasible thing to be able to provide that aquatics program over the summer. So under the current restrictions, it's just not feasible.
Okay, thank you for the information. And another question is regarding the private lesson. I saw that our city provides golf, tennis, and fitness private license. So for the fitness, is that indoor fitness lesson or I'm just curious?
Yes, good question. It is actually outdoor. So yes, out on the, at the sports center on the tennis courts, they'll be doing the personal training.
Okay, so that's much safer. Okay, yeah, that's all.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, that was an important detail. Thanks for catching that.
Thank you, Commissioner Mirzuk. So now I see the next one is Commissioner Stanek, Vice Chair.
Yes, I just quickly wanted to give a shout out to the staff that's out at Blackberry. I walk down there daily, and I did see the campers lined up earlier in the week, and the markings on the pavement of where people are supposed to stand, which direction they're supposed to go. So, and I did interact with one of the staff members today and asked him how it's going, and he said, you know, you could just tell it's hard. It's hard, but you know, they have a great attitude and they're making it work. So I just hats off to them. I was curious about at Blackberry Farm with the pool being closed. And I know that our big picnic sites, you know, you can't reserve them. But I was wondering if, are we looking creatively at having picnic tables spread out, socially distanced, that families could just come and use those picnic sites. And I know that's a very different way of using those picnic sites, but I think these times call for creative thinking. And so, you know, we want to give our residents the opportunity to get out and maybe just go with their family. So I just wanted to throw that out there, maybe something you could look at, or if it's not at all possible, you could just let me know right now.
Yeah, I have an update. It's under the current restrictions because of the whole sanitization of actual benches and picnic tables and such. They are not allowing us to open those under the current restrictions. I see a lot of people out there on blankets, picnicking out at different sites. And so, you know, I would encourage people to utilize the parks for that purpose, but, you know, kind of bring their own equipment. But at this point in time, the county just has not authorized or released that as one of the restrictions.
Okay, so I did see that it's completely blocked off. You can't even walk back there right now.
Are you talking about that? That's where the camp's actually happening. That's why that's blocked off across the little bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where the camp. So we blocked it off for the camps. So,
okay, so now it's the camps.
Yes. Okay. So I'm sure that once the camps are, I don't know for sure, but once the camps are over, we can reconsider how we are allowing access and if we can rope off the actual benches or not.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah, I do have a lot of questions, but no, I'm not, I have only a few updates. So I don't want to, because I know a lot of attendees are waiting on the next agenda item, which is a very passionate one for many people. So only thing, I just want to make a comment that it's awesome. The online classes, everything is going really good. And I'm really impressed with the even the virtual camp and even in-person tennis camp with 110 people. That's really seems to be, it's a pretty good one. And again, at the same time, given the current restrictions and the surge happening, I think I just want to make sure that the community members are much more vigilant now, right? They need to be adhered to much more stricter guidelines because we just want to make sure that they are safe at any point of time. So that's why all the park and rec staffs are putting all these programs. And I really thank you, applaud as commissioners Carol and Shu and Commissioner Tampe said, it's awesome for the park and rec one. And I think you can ask for a better time to help this community. Director Joanne, I know you said that you didn't sleep for the last 1 month, but I really appreciate you and the entire staff really taking care of it. This is the dire need, and this is the time you need to show to the community, and really appreciate all the efforts you put in there. Thank you. And so with that, I don't think that any other stuff to discuss or vote on this one. So let's move on to the item number 4, which is the recommendation to the City Council we need to provide regarding the DOLA, dog off-leash area trial at Jollyman Park. And I know there is a lot of reports there, and I see many of them, the updates. I'm sure that the attendees I think they started raising hand already, but I just want to make sure that let's have the listen to the staff report, and then we will go to the oral communications, right? So with
Sure.
that,
Thank you. So by the way, I haven't identified myself yet this meeting. My name's Joanne McGreeny, and I'm the director of the Parks and Recreation Department. I'm new to the city. I've been here a month now. And so sorry that I left that out at the beginning. So Whitney, if you wouldn't mind sharing the screen, that would be fantastic. So this item is in regard to the dog off leash area trial at Lehman Park. We're going to go over the timeline. So on October the 1st of 2019, the DOLA trial began and then came to a halt with COVID-19 restrictions, closing all dog parks and dog off leash areas as of March 24th. In addition to that closure was also the restrictions on youth sports for both practices and games. I know that you are all aware that that area, the dog off leash area, shares field space with the baseball diamond and the soccer field being adjacent to it. So on June 5th, happily so, the DOLA reopened, as well as dog parks. And so with the July 31st trial date nearing its end, what we wanted to come here to propose is the extension of the trial. And the reason we're proposing that is we have not really been able to gather any feedback regarding the coexistence of this youth sports group and the DOLA. And I think that that's really kind of the information that needs to be provided in order to give an adequate recommendation one way or another. So next slide, please. So the other item that we are asking that the commission review are the hours of the trial. So I know we have two options here, and I just want to kind of go over quickly the hours. Option one is the hours could be shifted to 1 hour before and 1 hour after sunset. This aligns with the posted closing hours of the park. If you can see, I personally took this picture of the park rules at Lehman Park. And at the very bottom of this park rule sign in white, the last item, it says park hours, daylight to 1 hour after sunset. And so that is, one of the options that has been brought forward. Option two would be to continue with the 2 hour blocks. And it would be proposed as follows. I know that this has been kind of debated prior to my arrival. So this would be the proposal. March through August, those months, the park would be open, or the dog off leash area would be available for 6 to 8 p.m. use. September to October would be 5 to 7 p.m. and November to February would be 4 to 6 p.m. So lastly, again, we are just recommending that, or staff is proposing to continue the trial through June 30th, 2021, or until 2 months of coexistence of youth sports group and the DOLA, whichever comes first. So let me just explain this a little bit more. We don't want to have to keep coming back based on COVID to continue the extension. We could have, shelter in place lifted and youth sports could start up in the fall potentially. If that happened and we could gather 2 months of feedback or information, we would come to you 2 months after we had that feedback. But if we don't have the shelter in place lifted, potentially youth sports won't start up again until March or April of next year, in which case we would not be able to bring back again that information that we would need to provide in order to make a recommendation. So we're requesting that the commission provide feedback and make a recommendation regarding the DOLA trial extension and the hours. And I am happy to answer any questions.
excellent. Thank you, Dr. Joanne. So I'm sure wow, okay, people started raising their hand. That's expected. Thank you for the community members. They're on the call. So let me go through it. First of all, before we start on, I just wanted to let all the community members also know, because I started responding to people who sent the emails about DOLA and what they really wanted it. And I specifically told them I may not be there in today, but thanks to American Airlines, in Houston, they said, you know what? Okay, I was started complaining about it. I said, you really put me on a different plane. And somehow they heard me and said, okay, I'm moving you in the morning flight. And of course, it was like last minute things, but me on an early flight, so I'm back here. So good to be in this passionate topic. I want to be part of it, so I'm back here. But even though I said that I won't be here, just you can erase that particular line in my response. With that, I see folks there on the call, except one person on the call in. And if you want to raise your hand, please press *9 so that we will know. But if not, I think I'm just going to go in the order. Wow, the caller raised the hand. Excellent. So I'll go with Ankita Goyal, and I'm going to say hello to talk. And I think I'll unmute, and if you're muted at your end, you need to unmute as well. And your time, I think, Whitney, you will be showing your magic clock. Yes. Thank you, because you have 3 minutes. Hello, Ankita, you can go ahead, please.
Hi, Gopal. Nice to meet you, and nice to meet the team council members. I keep repeating the same thing, but I just wanted to say we are very happy with the program, and it's going very well. It was a little setback because of the COVID. We couldn't meet everyone, but now, I mean, it's a really good platform to socialize not only our dogs, but also our, people, community, and it's a really good way to connect with and network with everyone. And the only one thing which is coming to my mind is that, and I'm sure it's with other dogs as well, that the time is a little early for summer because my dog is very hot, so he doesn't play it at 6 o'clock. So I would request if it is 1 hour before sunset and 1 hour after sunset. So it's a little cool because it's very hot in the park. So it's a little cooler and they can, run rather than just trying to find a shade instead. Yeah, that's it.
Excellent. Thanks, Ankita. The next one on is Samir Hahecha. Hello, Samir. I am unmuting you, and you're allowed. Hold on. I think you're talking. Yeah, go ahead, please. I think you're unmuted.
Okay.
With you, have the timer. Hello, Samir. Just a second, Samir. Yes, please.
Okay. Thanks for bringing this topic to the Parks and Rec Commission. And welcome, Joanne, to the city of Cupertino. We know that with COVID, things have changed, and we appreciate the fact that you're willing to extend the trial for a period of time so that we can get the data that you need to take to the city council. We're hopeful that this can become permanent in the near future. I also support the 1 hour before and after sunset proposal. I think that is both from a temperature point of view, that's a good thing. And it's also, I think it will have less impact or interaction with other users of the field because most of these sports wrap up earlier than that. We have seen that soccer and volleyball players are back near the off-leash area and they have their activities going. There have been users of the off-leash area during that time, and the groups have coexisted very well. So I just want you to know that. Yeah, so I think we're appreciative of your support of this trial. We'd really like to make it a permanent solution for the city, and we hope that data can be collected in a efficient and expedient fashion so that we can make it permanent. And that's all I'll say. Thank you.
Thank you, Samir. I think, Whitney, I see that I think every time you do it, I think we need to do something different. I think you will have an ache on it. So maybe we need to take a rotation on showing the clock. Otherwise, we'll be holding like this one. I say it's got a pain for you, and I think we need to do something different next
See
time.
my arm shaking?
Yeah, I know. So let's next go to, I think next person on the line is Deepa Mahendrakar, and I just unmuted you, Deepa. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, please, Deepa, yes.
All right, awesome. Thank you, commissioners and the city staff for bringing this topic up. It's obviously very close to our hearts and our dogs. I do want to call out, we worked for nearly 2 years to get the 10-month trial with the city and the commissioners and our third director, Joanne. Welcome to the city. And of that 10 months, we really practically could use only 4 months, partly because in January, the field did get shut down because of rain. So it was not just March through June that the field was shut down. It was also shut down for a large portion of January because of rains. So it was October, November, part of December, and a little bit of February. And now it has reopened, but the hours are preventing us from kind of going back there. It's 6 p.m. is too hot. It's been a very hot summer so far. It's probably going to continue that way. And by 7:30 is when we are kind of ready to go, which actually suits the time of option 1, which is 1 hour before and 1 hour after. And I am also in favor of, if necessary, have an extended trial, right, till June 2021, because the problem with trying to match the times, match the data in fall is it's a little too early after COVID. People are still a little wary about coming back and using, I have no idea how much of sports participation will be there. But there will be an after effect of COVID-19 for a while. So my recommendation and request of the commissioners here is to consider extending till June 2021, no questions, because that will give you real data, not 3 or 4 months of data, but nearly a year of data. And that will make the case fairly solid. I am confident personally that we can coexist, everything can work and such, but the city council is going to ask for more data. I can see it because they have already done that in the past. So I'm just kind of requesting we consider more than just 3 or 4 months of extension. I think that's all I had. Again, option 1 from timing perspective and extension till June 30th. Thank you so much for supporting us.
Thank you, Deepa. So next, I think it's caller 1661, and it'll be great if you could identify with your name because we couldn't see the name. So I'm going to let you speak now. Yes. Please.
Hi, my name is Madhu Krishnan. I want to start by thanking the council members for truly supporting the DOLA initiative. And in the interest of time, I'll just say my requests are very similar to my other doggy parents' requests on the timing as well as extension until June 2021. I think DOLA is a great initiative for all our dogs because they just make our dogs better socialized with humans as well as with other dogs, and that leads to less number of dog aggression incidents on the streets when we go on walks, when we take them on trails. So I think overall it leads to better safety with our dogs as well as when our dogs meet other dogs. I read a lot on Nextdoor about how small dogs get bitten by bigger dogs, and that's mainly due to lack of socialization. So definitely this is a great initiative, and we truly appreciate all your support, and we look forward to the extension. And also, as long as I've taken my dog to DOLA, we have had volleyball as well as soccer going on right next to us, and we haven't seen any issues. So, and I'm sure it will continue that way. So that's it from me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madhu. Appreciate your comments. And the next one, raise your hand, is Raj Avarsala. So I'm unmuting yourself. If you're muted, you can unmute. Yes, please.
Yes, sir. Hi, all. Thanks for this opportunity, and Joanne, welcome aboard, and also thanks for the entire commission chairs for listening to us. I would like to give this to my kids. They said they would like to, say a few points because they go to the park more. So I'll let with our Uma and Avi speak up. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Uma Avasarala, and I just want to thank all the commissioners for giving us this opportunity to speak and hearing us out. And once again, welcome aboard, Joanne. Good evening, everyone. My name is Abhiram Avasarala. I'm 9 years old, and I have a 6-year-old lab named Isabella. Our community enjoys daily sports, exercises, and other activity. Just like I enjoy playing soccer at the park with my friends, I would like my dog Izzy to enjoy the park as well. This will keep us both happy and healthy. I would like to request Dola area to become a permanent area for my dog to play with her dog friends. Last but not least, we have become very good friends, and we are like one big happy Dola family. Thank you.
Thanks all, guys. That's all from our end.
Thank you, Raj. I appreciate you bringing in your kids to and especially, I think Abhiram, I missed the first kid's name. I'm sorry. But
Her name is Uma.
Uma? Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. And thank you for your inputs. And Abhiram, whenever you get a chance, please ask Isabel also to just bark us or just give a little bit talk to us too later. Not now, but thank you. Appreciate you taking time. Thank you. The next person on the line is Manjaya Hegde. I just unmuted you. Let's see. You may have to unmute at your end as well. I think you're on, I believe. Can you go ahead, please? Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Manjaya Hegde. Thank you for the Park and Recreation team. And we are really excited for the extension. And also we would like to work closely with each individuals. I just want to thank you for this DOLA initiative. That's all from my side. And all the Park and Recreation who are looking really good working from home. Thank you again. Take care of yourself and be safe. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And the next person online is Debashish Rao. Let me allow you to talk. Hey, Debashish, I think I unmuted you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, I'm Debashish. I live a block away from the park. Again, we were concerned about how the trial will go given the COVID. I would really like to thank the team, the commissioners and the staff for considering the situation and extending the trial. And I mean, this is really a good thing to see how we are working closely together to make good things happen. This is my ideal world of how governments should work. I mean, this has been a 2-year journey, and I would really like to see the trial completing successfully and going to a final approval. Again, and thanks to the team. Other than that, as from a timing point of view, the option 1 seems good for the summer months. And if that can be put forward and make it happen, that'll be really great. That's it from my end. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Debashish. Appreciate it. Anyone on the attendees, if you really want to talk, please raise your hand. At this point, I don't see anyone. In case if you want to, you can raise your hand. I'll give another 5 seconds before I move on to the commissioners. No one yet. So with that, Dr. Chuan, I think this is the first time I see like you got a lot of welcome aboard from kids to everyone. So I think it is all over 2 years of, 2 months or 1 month of sleepless nights. See, this is what it is. Right? People really appreciate and they really notice all the effort going on from your end. So this is awesome to hear
Yes,
from
thank
both
you.
of them.
I hope to meet all of you soon.
Excellent. Thank you. So with that, let's go ahead internally. I think let's put it open questions and discussions together. I know we go for first any questions, clarification questions or discussions for the commissioner, but I think we can go ahead and do it together, I believe, unless otherwise somebody says no. But I'm trying to open it up for questions as well as, maybe since it's a long topic, maybe I'm taking back. Let's have any questions, clarifying questions on the proposals, because I thought this is a very passionate topic for every one of us and it may go in deep. So let me start with only clarification questions before we come back to the discussion. So the first one, the hand raised by Commissioner Bahush. So I think I'm going to unmute you.
Yeah, so the clarification I wanted to understand is that, if we go with the option one, which seems to be popular with the people using the DOLA, do we have to make any changes to the boards and, and how are we enforcing it?
So yes, we would have to update the informational A-frames, and that is actually included in the staff report that we would need additional funding for that in the amount of $300 approximately. So that would need to be done if the hours were changed.
Is this 300, that's just the one board, because there's only one board and there's only one park. We're not doing anything to the other park. This is only for Jollyman?
This is only for the dog off leash area at Jollyman. And I believe there's more than one A-frame. When I was out there, I feel like there were maybe 2 or 3 perhaps. So I'm assuming that we would put the signage on all of those. And what was your other question? I apologize.
How are we going to enforce it? Because...
Oh, right. So basically, what my understanding is when people, we're going to be providing feedback one way or another. If they were to call staff or report a problem of some sort, that the time slot associated based on their complaint or feedback would be noted, what time they were calling based on what time we're open. But, our phones are so savvy these days, you can see when sunset is happening. And so we could surmise based on when a time that someone was reporting, whether it was an hour before, an hour after, or if it was outside of that time frame.
Okay. And then I guess one last question, and it's kind of with regard to if there is combination of people playing there. From what I understand, and I hope it stays that way, that there's been no conflict between the people that are playing volleyball or whatever else and the dogs, and there've been no incidents of, the dogs being out of control or whatever. So hopefully it stays that way. And the question I really have is what happens if something like that occurs?
So first of all, no one is authorized as a group to have practices on those fields at this point in time. And my understanding is, unless they apply through us for a field permit with the requirements under the restrictions for a camp. So we are working with groups that are wanting to utilize the fields for camps. But again, there's a great many restrictions, both state and county-wide, to adhere to in order to make that go. So it's my understanding that no one has a field use permit for Jollyman for those purposes, but I could be wrong, but I will check that not tomorrow, but Monday. I have it here in my notes. But if there were an incident, I'm assuming that, we would, follow the regular reporting that you would if there was any kind of incident anywhere, in public. If there was an incident, we would follow up with the proper chain. But there hasn't been any reported incidents since the trial started.
Thank God for that. And I think these dogs are very well behaved, so that's great. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Bahoud. And then Commissioner Stanek, I think you are next. I thought you were already unmuted.
Thanks. So I have a couple questions. One, I just wanted to confirm that whether the commission has the authority ourselves to extend this trial, or does this need to go to council?
My understanding, so it's my understanding that if you approve to move forward with the trial extension, that I will be bringing this topic to council for approval at the next meeting.
Okay, so that has to happen in July. So it's a good thing that we're doing this early. Okay, thanks. So that's good information. So then the next question I had, and this is hopefully not getting too far ahead, is if I don't want to get to the end of this next period in a year and then say, okay, now we need an extension because we need to review the data and come back with a recommendation. So is it possible that we can structure this so that there is a point where we're coming back before the end of the trial to look at the data we have to make a recommendation?
So the reason that June 30th was chosen was under the assumption if youth sports started back up in mid-March, which they normally do, the use of the baseball field, March, we would have half of March, all of April, half of May, and so that we can analyze the data and bring that to you in June, and then we would have until the end of June to get it approved, if that were the course. That was the timing behind it.
That's really good. Now, what if we don't have baseball next year? We're going to cross that bridge when we get to it.
I feel like, it's really hard to make a recommendation without having knowledge of the coexistence of youth sports and the DOLA. That's just I think it would be hard for you all to make a recommendation without having that information. I think it would be hard for the city council. If you have that if there were no field users, it would be a moot point. But considering it's a shared space where they abut each other, the soccer field and the baseball field, I think it just would be hard to, again, make a recommendation without having the information. That would be what I would think that you all would want to know before you make a recommendation.
Yeah. I mean, there are other users there. They may not be organized, field users through the city, but there are lots of users out there. And so I do just want to put forward that we could gather data by going out there and seeing other users out there coexisting with the DOLA. So I don't want to say that if you don't have youth sports, you definitely couldn't do that, but it's too early to make that decision right now.
Well, one of the other things is that, usually my understanding is when you work with the field users, their schedule and when they're playing, and to not know that information would be hard to decipher who's out there and doing what. So it just would be cleaner, easier to assess, I think.
Yeah, so we can hope that happens. The other thing is, and maybe we'll talk about this with the work plan, is that the work plan, we do anticipate reviewing other sites for potential DOLA sites, but it also says that the Jollyman trial should be concluded successfully. And so if we're extending a year, we have sort of a conflict there that we'll need to think about as we get to our work plan, I guess.
So yes, I think that's part of the park master plan that's included. And so what we can do is we can always notate areas that we think would be appropriate. And then once a successful conclusion of a trial occurs, you could move forward with making further suggestions.
Yeah, so we can talk about. Okay, that's all I have right now. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Tambe, that's next to you. Yep.
Awesome. So, this has been a long process. Candidly, I think that it would be great to just make sure that we have the contact, which I know we do, but we've done outreach to the youth sports, parent leaders, and just get their input, regardless. However, it's a community park and youth sports are one component. I think something that's even more significant, that is an important part, but who else lives around there and recreationally uses that space, I think is equally as important as the youth sports that we have in that area. And seeing as there hasn't been any problem with the casual use of the space as to what it's intended, I would, I would go with the option to extend to 2021.
Sorry, Commissioner Talbot, is there any questions you have on it? I just want to make sure the clarification questions.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, so is there a way that we can definitively identify the only question I have, then it's comments. Sorry about that. Is can we definitively identify when the hour before sunset starts and the hour before, hour after ends? Is there any way to actually create bounds around that time, or are we just going based off of the sun in the sky?
Well, I mean, when you look at your phone, there are many apps that tell you what time sunset is. And so the thinking behind that was if there were any, reports that we could, identify what time that occurred. It fluctuates. I mean, it changes literally daily by minutes, but as it goes from, June to July, it gets, later than earlier. So it's hard to be definitive about it. It changes regularly.
And from a management perspective, is that challenging for our team?
I would say just based, I mean, we really made the two options available based on the feedback that we had received. And so, I thought after reviewing it with staff, it was something that we could manage.
Okay, great. That's it for me for questions.
Thank you. Again, I see Commissioner Becker, you raised your hand before Mina, so go ahead, please. I thought I unmuted you.
So this is a follow-on to what Carol had to say. So just supposing, God forbid, but we're stuck in this, never get out of the house state past June. Then are we extending this infinitely? I mean, until something happens, or it's just definitely up to June?
I mean, I don't think anybody ever anticipated that we would be extending this probably in the first place, but, I want you all to have the information you need to make a recommendation. So I will come back to you, whether that's, gathering information after 2 months of coexistence or, prior to June 30th, probably a month in advance, or the first meeting in June of 2021. With a recommendation of either here's the information for you to make a recommendation to, end the trial and move on, or don't I'm hoping that we have enough information. And I appreciate all the feedback about trying to gather additional information based on other groups, but you have to also realize that these field user groups are a lot of people and balls are going all over the place. And so you just have to take that into account as well. So Paul, I think you have mute on yourself.
I do want to make a mistake, so I'm sorry. So I think Commissioner Zhu, I think you're unmuted.
Hi. I also want to talk based on Carol and Sashi's comments. I agree that other than the sports team feedback, the community member who use the park, their feedback and there's some there can also be used as a data for we to decide if we should change the DOLA to permanent. And I remember there's another data as before we started the trial. They said there's a number, a phone number for people to call. If there's any incident of dog fight or maybe little kids got threatened by the dog, there may be a number maybe can generate a sheriff report or something. If we have that data, I think that also provide information for us. If the report number didn't increase significantly, I think that's a good sign to tell people, yeah, Dollar Park is pretty fun with the community. Yeah. So that's also a kind of data we should consider before the sports team can use that area. Yeah, just this.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Zhu. So before I open up for a discussion and discuss on the recommendations to the council, I do have a few questions to the staff and Joan. So number one, have you, again, this is tag along with Commissioner Zhu's one, is there any report that's been so far submitted from the people, the community members who are using it? Is there any other report from them which say that, no, either I'm scared, kind of, did we receive any reports? I know we did receive one report in the very early stage. At the time, even community member came and talked. I just want to make sure on records, is there any other reports we have received so far?
So the attachments that we had with the staff report were the feedback that we had received, and after reviewing it, I believe that was the only instance of negative feedback. Okay.
Okay. So the second question I have is just a clarification on the recommendation itself. But I know it says that until June 2021, or the 2 months from the time when we allow the field usage by the teams, whichever comes earlier, right? Is that
right? That's the recommendation.
So that means it can happen before June 2, because assuming that even March or February, if we open up the field, then I think in February, March, April itself, we might be able to do it. So that means it's a contingency on the field usage. Is that right? So that's correct. I just want to make sure there is a contingency, but we said minimum until June, but contingency is upon opening of the field. But if that comes early, the trial can go finish it early, but the decision can happen later. Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand that part of the recommendation. No, other than that, I don't have any specific clarification questions, but I do have some comments and stuff. So let's move on to the discussion part before we look at the recommendation. This for the commissioners. I just want to ask to have a discussion to review the recommendation by the staff. Is it exactly matching to what we wanted to send it to the council with the recommendation, or do we want to make any modification or whatever? So I just want to make sure that we can have some discussions now on it, because we asked the clarification questions. I know Commissioner Tambe, you had a comment as well earlier. Before we get on to motion, I just want to make sure that every commissioner has an opportunity to discuss anything or any comments on this one, or any new amendment on the proposal or question on the recommendation from the staff itself. I see Commissioner Stanek. Yep, I unmuted you, I believe.
Okay, so I just wanted to comment on the different hours proposals. And I think we heard from the users that they like the hour before to an hour after sunset. It's not wasted on me that was their original request. Mm-hmm. And that was not what we did. And here we're back again looking at that. So I think that is a good option, and I think it will work for them. I hope it will work for them, and I think that that has a lot of support. They're the ones using it, and I don't think there's an issue of knowing when sunset is. That's how all of our parks work. They say an hour after sunset. We don't seem to have a problem with that. So I think that's a really good option. So that I just wanted to voice my support for that particular app.
Thank you, Commissioner Stanek. Any others want to talk about it or make any comments? Commissioner Tambe, yes. I do have some comments, but I'll go after you, Commissioner. Please go ahead.
Awesome. So as long as city staff is okay with 1 hour before and 1 hour after sunset in terms of, our city's ability to track and enforce that, then that's fine. But I think, that's definitely something I would defer to staff on, just because I think that's a staff decision, and our director said that that's fine. So I think that's a happy situation where staff says yes to a change request from the community. And so I'm glad that looks like it is working out. I guess the only part that I'm a little, two parts that I'm a little confused on are, we're having all these, I also have the other, the like Excel of all the responses and stuff. There's not much in terms of conflict for the dogs that are at the park, but there is still high usage at the park of people who are walking. So I wanted to make a note of that. And I think, I begrudgingly would say that 2021 is where we should go. I wish we could just approve it now, but I understand that we want to at least give a youth sports the opportunity. However, we make our work plan, and so, this is going to be a future agenda item, but I don't necessarily think that we need to wait for one to end for another to start. So I think that's something that we can talk about in the next agenda item.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. So any other commissioners? If not, let me go. So a couple of comments, and definitely I think one part which still I'm trying to figure it out is the field usage, and can that be substituted with any other usage of current programs? I know we are not allowing any group of people to play around, but I'm sure community members or kids or the families may be playing around nearby area. So if any inputs we get it, that'll be great. But if you're waiting for the field usage by the specific sports team, is that possible that their time will collide with this time? For example, if we say that, okay, this is a 2 or 3 hours on that in the evening, do we expect that? The reason I'm asking this question the context behind this question is that closely tied or loosely coupled? When I say that means if people are going to play just close to it, or they are just be part of it, so we can make an independent decision based on the current community usage of the park for this one, or do we need to wait for the field usage by the specific team? And if they are too close, yes, to the specific location, then yes, I do think that maybe waste. If it is a little far away and stuff, I'm not sure. So that part I'm not clear. Would be great if you could help me understand. Director, is that is very close to the DOLA location, or is it a little far?
Yeah, so the baseball field is directly, the left field is directly adjacent to the DOLA. I mean, it's not fenced, so they're just A-frames out there. So they are abutting each other. So, and again, I think that with normal practices and games and the amount of people that will be utilizing that field, it would just be helpful to know how they coexist. The soccer field, there's no real pathway from the normal path over to the DOLA area, actually. So you don't get a lot of activity over there in that area unless you're going there really for the dog off leash area. But the soccer field, you would have to pass through either the soccer field area or, around it if soccer was going on to get to the DOLA area as well. So those are the reasons why I think it's helpful to have that information.
Okay, no, that's great. I think there was one other request. I know this is kind of a basic situation where we have until June, but it can come earlier too. But do we need a continuous 4 to 6 months of report? Is it what we were looking for? Is there any specific guideline? I forgot when we started this one, because I know it's only 4 months they used it, then they interrupted by the rain, and then we had this COVID situation. So we kind of intermittent because the field is not fully utilized at peak by all the community members who wanted to use it. So the reason we are putting into June is it because we want to collect maybe like 6 months of data completely?
So no.
Or what is the timeline we are talking about? Why June? why not beyond? I'm just.
So the
is there any
thought behind
specific-
it was that most likely youth sports probably will not occur in the fall, just from, again, I have no crystal ball, but, the reality is it's probably highly unlikely that organized youth sports will happen in the fall. And so we just wanted to be able to gather 2 months minimum of information in order to provide that to come back. Now, maybe January will not be wet and maybe they will, who knows what will happen in the future, but we just wanted to give ourselves at least 2 months if we could, or at least extend it to when the next youth sports cycle would come up that most likely would happen.
Okay, no, thank you. The reason I ask is, I think that we are putting everybody in suspense. I mean, not your fault, but in general, we are putting community members on trial because they wanted to make it permanent. I want to make sure how quickly we can make that decision and help them. That's the rationale behind my question on it. But I do understand that because we don't have a specific data when they actively used the field next to it, and then what the impact on it, we haven't had a chance to, and I do see your point on it. So thank you. So I think we talked enough. Oh my God. Okay, there are 2 other hands raised on it. So let's go quickly on them, and then we will be able to come up with a recommendation to the council. I think the next one is Commissioner Bakur. Let me lower your hand. Yes, please.
The signs are up right now for how they use the space. That says, maintaining the distance and all that, at least for the humans, obviously not for the dogs. Is that right? Is my assumption right?
There are signs at the park about social distancing.
Thank you for that.
So this is a kind of dumb question, but since we had youth sports in the fall last year, do we not have any data from that? Weren't there fall sports last year that played on the field? I'm not super sports ball oriented, so I apologize in advance for my lack of knowledge on that front.
I believe the DOLA began in October, and so that would be like the tail end.
Oh, that's the end of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think. I could be wrong though.
Okay, so I think Commissioner Tambe, you already?
Yeah, that was my question.
Had your comments? That's the one, right? Okay. So if nothing else, I think the proposal has already been given to by the director. Would you mind just to flash the recommendation on the screen?
I can make a motion.
Just to make sure that, so I just want to make sure that's the same thing and somebody can make a motion. We can go ahead
Whitney,
with that.
can you share the last page of the slideshow? Great, thanks.
Yeah, just for others' clarity, I know we talked with the passion. Okay, so I think Commissioner Tambe, you were about to make a motion, so please.
Excellent, and it's okay if I have a compound motion for this, where I incorporate both the time and the date.
Let's do them separate just to be sure.
Okay.
I just get nervous.
So I'll go ahead and say I move to approve the extension of the dog off-leash area trial program until June 30th, 2021.
Maybe a quick clarification on that.
I was going to second that, but the clarification I wanted to add was that or until 2 months of coexistence.
Yeah, so Commissioner Tambe, can you please restate yours? I think maybe we'll come back.
That was my motion. I don't believe that that's my motion. I don't think we're gonna.
Okay,
so we can have a friendly amendment?
Yeah. But it'll need a second to go to discussion.
Yeah, so who can second it now? And then we can go for discussion in case if we need to amend, I think we can discuss it. Anybody is seconding it? No,
If there's
but
no second, the motion dies.
Sorry?
If there's no second, the motion dies and somebody else can make a motion.
Okay, so I understand June 30th, 2021. So let me second the motion, and I would like to get to the discussion in case if we need to do it. Otherwise, we'll go on the back in the loop.
The only reason The only reason that I said that, well, twofold is one, I don't think that we're going to have youth sports next year. I think that's very unlikely that we'll have large group youth sports at a place that it'll make a data difference. And second, somebody in the from the dog off leash group had requested that that we just say June 30th, so we don't have to go back and forth, and we can also make sure that we have full. I think they had said the specific part was like making sure that it's not just 2 months of whatever happens in those 2 months, but that there's effective time to gather data. And I think that there's going to be a little bit of an acclimation time for kids who are, around dogs and vice versa. So I just think, I don't want like a 2-month slice to be the make it or break it for a program that's like very supported. I would rather give
maybe
time.
I do have a question on, now I'm a little confused on that, Commissioner Tambe. I'm not sure how do we really question. So we need a second and then only we can go for a discussion, right?
Well, we already had a second. You seconded it.
Yeah, that's what I said. Let me second, I second this motion and then I'll open up for discussions now. And then I do have my own clarifications, but I'll wait for others to talk about it because otherwise we'll go in circles. So Commissioner Bahour, so you have, I unmuted you, please.
So my recommendation is to stick with, my opinion is to stick with the recommendation as the staff has made it. I agree, but possibly we won't have sports until June. So we might be in a position where we won't have any data, but I want to have the option that if we do have data and there is some kind of a conflict, we listen to the other side as well and not have, we've committed to this, so now we can't change anything. I'd like to have that option where we look at, if there is, youth sports, then, as I said, whichever comes first, right? So if there is no youth sports till June 2021, then there's absolutely no issue. At that point, we'll have to look at it again because we really need to make sure that this is a place that works for everyone. Again, I am a dog, can't say dog owner anymore, but I truly believe this is I'm a dog lover and I understand the need and I completely agree, but then I think we have to make sure that there's absolutely no issue between the coexistence of the two groups.
So let me, again, the discussion. So I hear your comments, Bahour. So that's what I had. That's what I want to put in a clarification again in this one. So I think 2021, we wanted to go to the trial, but I don't think that we are making a decision based on it because still we wanted to have 2 months of coexistence. Either it can happen before June or even after June. Assuming that even if it happens before June, assuming that it's March, our director said, my assumption, this is the reason why I seconded. So even if it happens on March, April, May, even if you have the data on May, still we want to go to the trial until June. That's the way I thought about it. If not, if no sports are happening, still it will go on to June 2021. And then we will still collect 2 more data, assuming that in July, the program starts or the coexistence or the field usage gets started getting into, then I think July, August, then I think still we will go. And if it looks like that means we may have to come for another extension in 2021 if we don't collect the data along with the field usage. That's how I'm thinking of it. That's why I said, hey, June 2021, anyway, it's granted. Whether even if it happens on March, the trial still goes on 2021. And you never know if you're already going to go to permanent. If it happens earlier, all the better. I don't see it's a problem. That's the reason. That's how I assumed it. Maybe there is one more. I think, let's see, a couple of hands raised on it. Hopefully we'll finish it off in a few minutes. Okay, I don't know who raised it. I think Commissioner Bahour, I think you raised first and then Commissioner Tambe.
Under that small chance that we have youth sports in very, very small chance that we have youth sports, say in September, so we'll have to revisit it. And I don't see the problem with revisiting it. I just want to make sure that when we make that decision, because we will make that decision to possibly allow this to happen permanently, we want to be sure that the people who are using the park don't come back and complain after that decision is made. So it's worth putting that clause in right now so that we have that opportunity to evaluate. We'll come back, hopefully, fingers crossed, that everything is okay, people don't have an issue. There's nothing that we're going to lose in that.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Tambe, you are next, and then Commissioner Zhu, you also have it.
I just wanted to remind folks that if you want to add in the 2 months of coexistence part, you need to make an amendment to the motion.
Okay.
And then that amendment, so then when we move to a vote, it would be, if
Yep.
the amendment is approved, we can move to the vote with the.
Sure, yeah, I was about to say that one. But maybe before we go to the amendment, is it okay? Like, I just wanted to hear from Commissioner Zhu. She raised the hand already. I just wanted to hear from Commissioner Zhu, please. I think I muted you.
Oh, yeah. So I just want to summarize what I understand. If I misunderstood anything, please help me clarify. So now I think the difference between the extension date and at June 30 next year and the staff proposal either on June 30 or until 2 months of coexistence of a sports group. So the only difference is if the sports group didn't start next year before June, we have to extend the extension. So, but for the dollar user, no matter if it's a permanent area or a trial, they can still use that area. So that's no difference for them. The only difference is people in the sports group, maybe they may complain in future. And another difference is in our park work plan, we cannot start to look for other potential area for dog off-leash park in Cupertino, because before we change DOLA of Jollyman Park to permanent, we cannot start to explore other potential site. So that's only two difference I understand.
Yeah, so I think you're right. The second part, Commissioner Zhu, I think we may discuss it later in the other topic too. But the first part, I do agree on yours. So thank you for your input. Maybe with that, maybe Commissioner Bahu, you said, or whoever, you want to make any amendment onto the motion. If it is, then we can amend it and then go for a vote. Or we can straight away go for the vote. So anybody wants to amend the motion?
I think she's on mute. There you go.
Yeah.
As usual. I didn't realize I was on mute. So I would like to amend the motion to include or until 2 months of coexistence of youth sports and the DOLA, whichever comes first.
Okay. I don't think that we need a second. We can just directly go for voting, right?
Yeah, we can vote on that. If that doesn't pass, then we go back to the original motion.
Okay, sure. Okay. So if that is the case with that amendment, I think, well, let's go for a vote and let's see how we do it. And then if not, then we'll come back. So Staff Whitney, I think you have.
You ready?
Can we go for a vote, please?
Yes. So Chair Kumarapam?
I vote yes after the discussions by the comments that I like the amendment too. So what else?
Vice Chair Stanek?
Yes.
Commissioner Tambe?
Yep.
Commissioner Bigor? Commissioner Shu?
Yes.
Awesome.
Passes.
It's great, unanimously passed, and I think the attendees were waiting for it to hear and say what it is. So I think the recommendation as stands as such, Director Joanne, so whatever you put in there, I think that's where the commission is recommending it, and it is going to the council, and I assume that it goes to them on 9th, if I understand correctly.
Oh, I also need you to make a decision about the hours as well, a recommendation on the hours, sorry.
Jumped on the gun.
I just wanted to do them separately just in case.
Let's go for it, okay. Then the hours, there were two options, you presented it. I think, can anyone go for a motion on that one so that we can?
I'd like to make a motion to,
I think there is an option 1 and the option 2. Please.
I'd like to make a motion. I'm not going to describe it as option 1 or option 2. I'd like to make a motion that the hours are changed to 1 hour before and to 1 hour after sunset all year long.
Seconded.
Great. Any discussion on this? This is not a long thing to discuss about it. Okay, nobody is raising hand. That's great. So, hello, Whitney. Let's go for a vote, please.
Chair Kumarapan,
Yes.
Vice Chair Stanek,
Yes.
Commissioner Tombe,
Yep.
Commissioner Begor, and Commissioner Shu.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Excellent. Both motions passed unanimously, Director Jawan. So I think you'll be happy that you can just send what you really asked, recommended it. I think you can take it forward to the council. And only one question is that we will know by 9th, I believe, right? On both of these recommendations will be approved or sending for approval to the council.
So
correct?
the staff reports are already due for the meeting next week on the 7th. And so the final meeting in July, I think, is July 21st. So.
Oh, I see. Okay, so the decision we will know only by 21st, is it?
July 21st will be the council meeting.
And will the attendees today also be allowed to? It's going to be a normal agenda item, right? So they can also comment and talk to City Council at that time.
I believe so.
Okay, and also potentially comment on our next agenda item. Cool. Just curious. Great. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you. Wow, that's a very passionate discussion. I think it's 8:50, and it looks like the other one. The only thing every time I get scared is that if I see a lot many A to Z kind of attachment, then I get scared. But let's see. Doesn't go like 2 a.m. I thought the last council meeting. We don't want you to go that far. I know you got a lot of sleepless nights, Director and the staff. So let's try to move on it. So let's move on to the item number 5, which is the Park and Recreation Commission, the work program. Let's hear from the staff.
Good evening, Joanne McGreeny, Director of Parks and Recreation. This is the item before you is to review and provide a recommendation to the City Council on the Parks and Recreation Commission fiscal year 2020-2021 work program. Whitney, if you wouldn't mind sharing your screen. We have another PowerPoint available for you to follow. Hopefully that this makes the things a little bit smoother and go a little bit easier or a little bit more easily to follow. Okay, so again, want to overview the process. We had an attachment titled Guidance on Commission Work Programs, fiscal year 2021, and this is for commissioners. And part of the overview is just to show you again a timeline of how this process works. So the commission submitted suggested items for the city work program back in December and January of 2019-20. And in February, those items were evaluated by the departments and city manager's office, so department heads and city manager, as well as a draft city work program that was presented to council. So all the commissions submit theirs, and then those items get consolidated and brought to council. In June, due to COVID, instead of the normal timeline, which is usually March for this program, in June, the City Council approved the city work program with council directed changes. And so that's why we're bringing this item to you in July for your review of your commission work program based on the city work program. Next slide, Whitney, if you wouldn't mind. So with the city work program, we just wanted to kind of review some items that are helpful in setting these priorities for the commission. So I just want to briefly go over the Muni Code description for the Park and Rec Commission. So I'll read these as quickly as I possibly can, but we are to hold hearings on matters pertaining to planning and development of parks, cultural activities, historical resources, recreation, community services, including but not limited schools, and senior services, and capital expenditures related to community activities and facilities. Conduct such other hearings as necessary in accordance with its own rules and regulations. Report its decisions and recommendations in writing to the City Council. Consider, formulate, and propose programs, activities, resources, plans, and development designed to provide for, regulate, and direct the future growth and development of community activities, parks, and recreation systems in order to secure to the city and its inhabitants better service. To make sure investigations and reports for future acquisition of park sites. To make in its advisory capacity and any and all recommendations to the City Council relating to the above matters, including the extension of parks, recreation system, and community activities in outlying areas of the city. In cooperation with the Director of Recreation and Community Services, the Commission will consider, review, and evaluate parks, recreation programs, and community activities, and consider, formulate, and propose cultural activities and historical preservation for the city and its residents. So that's just helpful in guiding and formulating how we put together what is on the Commission's work program. Okay, next slide. Another important part of the Muni Code is the Parks and Recreation Commission schedule. Required by code, the Commission shall establish a regular place of meeting and rules of conduct thereof, and shall hold at least one regular meeting each month, which we do. Our established meeting is the first Thursday of each month at 7 p.m. Some things that we want to just bring to your attention that do not need to be included on the work program because they are ongoing operational items. And that is the Community Funding Grant Program application review that we just did last month. Review and provide feedback regarding capital improvement projects. Teen and senior, that's a new word, teen and senior engagement, festivals and events, and collaboration with other commissions. In addition to that, it's helpful to just realize that there is a budget for this commission, a little more substantial than most. It includes in this $8,000 membership to Parks and Recreation. I'm drawing a blank on the word that I want to use because I want to say conferences. There's conference fees, membership fees included for organizations, sorry. And as well as materials such as nameplates or business cards of that nature. And then just another thing to highlight here is the full-time employee allocation to the commission is myself as your staff liaison and Whitney as your administrative assistant, both of us for a total of 0.10. So 10% of our time is allotted to the commission. Next slide. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go through the 6 items that were incorporated into the city work program that we are recommending that we move forward with as our commission work program. And item number 1 is the Blackberry Farm Golf Course. And the project objective here is to determine short and long-term improvements to the golf course and amenities. And again, this is adopted by the city work program and is under the quality of life, driven by the quality of life goal. So again, it's to establish a plan to improve and fund Blackberry Farm Golf Course and amenities. And it would include short-term and long-term improvements. And again, a lot of these items that we're going to review are TBD pending COVID. And that's just another thing to just keep in mind that I will reiterate at the end of the presentation of all the items. Okay, item 2 is the dog off leash area that we just talked about. So again, it's identify additional areas suitable for permitting dogs to be off leash and establish one such area if the current trial period is successful. So again, I think, you know, it was kind of up in the air when this was approved. But again, pending youth sports, field use restrictions, we could come back with a recommendation anytime within the next year. Moving on to item 3 is the Rancho Reganata district. So again, The project objective is to make a recommendation to council on whether or not to absorb the aquatics facility through Rancho Recanada. So that is an effort that we are already all familiar with. That is, again, TBD due to community engagement that we may need to ensue. Item number 4 is the Park and Recreation Department Strategic Plan. Not to be confused with the specific plan. I keep calling it both. So again, this is a large endeavor based on the master park plan that was adopted, I believe, in February. So this specific item is to address the immediate and short-term opportunities that have been identified in the park master plan. And so those things include like the implementation of benches, water fountains, shade opportunities, mile markers at different parks, the potential for ping pong tables, basketball courts, satellite community gardens, and the perusal of the dog off leash area opportunities as well. So this is really encompasses a whole lot. This item is going to take a lot of time and effort for many years. Again, this is just the first portion of the park plan for the first 1 to 3 years. So this is year 1. Okay, item 5 is the use of athletic fields in parks. So quickly getting up to speed here, our user field policy is from 2004, so it is 16 years old. In that time, fees have not been updated, and there is interest in additional field use on the weekends. So I think that because of COVID, this project also was put on hold. Again, as you can see, it was from the 1920 work program. And so part of the process would be to engage with the stakeholders, the field users, because potentially the fees will be going up. And then to also engage the neighborhood around these fields about impact potentially with additional field use, especially on the weekends. So again, additional community engagement needs to happen in order to provide a recommendation for this purpose. And item number 6 is the community garden improvements. So this is the renovation of the community gardens at McClellan Ranch. And again, it includes implementation of a new process and procedure for more effective community-driven gardens program. And again, explore extending community gardens across other parks in the city. So again, this is TBD pending, COVID restrictions could go either way. So, so the next slide I think shows all of these onto one grid so that we can refer to them if we need to. So there are 6 items. I know that there were several other items that you had initially included for your recommendations to the city. These were all accepted onto the city work program for the 2021 fiscal year. And so I want to just kind of take a minute to be cognizant about the feasibility of doing some of these things because of COVID. I think that you all are well aware of the challenges with not having staff physically all together to be able to meet or be able to engage the community or have in-person meetings and such. A lot of these items have to do with making visits, and it's difficult to do things in groups at this point in time. And so I just want to be mindful that we're also not biting off more than we can chew, and so that we're not over-promising and under-delivering. We have 2 items that are carried forward from the last fiscal year because we were not able to complete them due to COVID. So I just want to be mindful. I know that, some of the items that were not included on this list may still be of interest, and I'm not saying that we're going to forget about them altogether. But I think this is a full slate of things to review and tackle. And so I feel comfortable with accepting these and recommending that we move forward for council to approve these. And again, because of the pushback, we need to make a recommendation tonight to council for their August meeting. So each commission will be reviewing their work programs and making their recommendations to council. So they're reviewing it in the month of July, and then with the plan to come back to council for approval of these work programs in August. Next slide. So just some additional information and reminders, just for the good of the order, because some of us are new, like myself. Again, the commission chair and staff liaison meet 2 weeks prior to a meeting to discuss the upcoming agenda. Requests for agenda items can be submitted to the staff liaison by this time. Just trying to be mindful that agendas take a lot of time and effort, staff reports, attachments, PowerPoints. It's a heavy effort by the staff, and we need to post those and make sure they're all reviewed prior 72 hours prior to the meeting. So that's usually the Monday before the Thursday meeting. And then again, just want to reiterate, staff liaison should always be your first point of contact for information regarding city and staff resources. If I am unable to provide you any kind of information that you need, I will be happy to point you in the right direction or coordinate getting those the information or resources to you as I can. And so I think that's the last slide. Whitney, if you want to go back actually to the slide with all 6 items on it, I am happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Joanne. So let me see any community members on the call. I don't see anyone there, so that means I think we should go directly to the commissioners for any clarifying questions. But before I go there, just a quick one. Thank you for specifically calling out the last slide, which is, there are 2 questions, 2 comments. One, thank you for putting it out that agenda items can also be sent to you. And I thought it was implicitly called out that people can send a staff liaison like you any agenda they want to see it so that we can discuss. And if it's not explicitly called out, thank you for calling it out. So people can directly send you a note asking about, okay, can we include this particular item in the agenda kind of. So thank you. Thanks for calling it out. It was not as explicit as it is earlier. So maybe I was also hesitating earlier to send it. So thank you. The other comment, I think, or maybe question is that you said that this has to go to the, since these are all approved already, but you said that the commission has to look into it, discuss, and give their consent so that it can go to the council to get approval. Is that what I heard?
So yes, so
the
Park and Rec, sure. The Park and Rec department actually has 4 commissions that they have reporting to them. So there are several commissions that actually did not have any items make it onto the city work program. So we had 6 for the Park and Rec Commission make it onto the city work program. And so that I am recommending that we proceed with these 6 and not add any additional ones that you had previously submitted. So again, up for discussion, but that's where we are.
Okay. So with that, let's open up for any clarification questions to start with before any discussion. So I see Commissioner Bahursa, you raised your hand. I think I muted you. Please go ahead with your clarification questions now.
Yeah, I think it's probably next year I won't have so many clarification questions, I hope. But here we are. So there was a slide that you'd put up, Joanne, something, I forgot what the title of the slide was. It was right up front where you said you talked about the funding program and a few other things that are not part of the work program.
They're ongoing. Yeah, ongoing operational.
Ongoing operational.
Operational items. So that was just informational, right? We're not making any changes to anything.
No, I just wanted to point out that you don't need to include that into the work program, that those happen regardless.
Great, thank you very much. This is a very useful slide. I wish I had gotten this the first time so we actually know what we're trying to do. Very good slide set. Appreciate it. Now, in the 6, I am not even starting any discussion of what else we should do, but I am just curious, what were the items that we left out? Because it's been so long ago, I don't remember what the list was. So I was wondering if you have.
Yeah, so I believe, Whitney, was that attachment D to the staff report?
I think that's what it was. I can't access on my computer with my screen.
No, I can see that.
Check. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can see that. And all-inclusive playground. Yeah, sorry, Commissioner Babu, if it's okay, I can share it or I can just read through it.
Share it just as a quick,
Yes, it was.
review.
Yeah, so let me quickly, if it is a D, it's all-inclusive playground. And then, again, I'll just read out all of them, then you can strike out. All-inclusive playground, dog off-leash areas, annual events, status of trials, historic preservation, which is McLellan Ranch, teen wellness programs, collaboration with other commissions. Now I see that's become an operational one. Senior programs, that's also operational now. Park and Rec marketing plan, and then the strategic plan, which includes, strategic plan is kind of we putting a lot of things into it, which is Rancho Recanado, Lawrence Midi Park, Memorial Park, Stevens Creek Corridor, Park Equity, Blackberry Farm Golf Course. So I don't know how quickly but I was just going through like a rocket speed.
Read out everything, or did you just leave out the one, or did you just read out? I mean, from what I understood, it was just everything, right? Everything that was on the plan, including the ones
I read all of them originally was there, and I think that's what I just read out everything. And what Director, I think Johan, you can correct me. What you did was you picked up from that one and say, what is the key top kind of 6 programs which we can do given the current consent, whatnot. I think that's what you listed out. Is that right?
Let me just clarify. First of all, I misspoke, and thankfully someone caught it and told me. So the 2 bottom items here, the use of the athletic fields in parks and community garden improvements, those 2 items are from last fiscal year's work program that were not completed. So they're being brought over for us to complete. The first 4 are the new work program items that were adopted into the city work program that I am also recommending that we adopt into our work program as a commission. The all-inclusive playground is on hold due to funding. That's one of the projects that's on hold, so that's why I do not suggest that we move forward with that. The annual events has been incorporated into operational items.
Yep.
Status of trails has been incorporated, I think could be incorporated to collaboration with other commissions like the Bike and Ped Commission as well, and reviewing that. Historical preservation, that, again, we could potentially add that in, or, again, bring that up maybe next year when we have a bit more time to do a better effort on that. Teen wellness programs, again, I think that's part of the operational items, collaboration with other commissions, senior programs. My understanding is the marketing plan information has already been submitted. I've reviewed part of that report already, not all of it in its entirety. And then the Park and Rec strategic plan is on there. So there weren't many left off.
Yeah, I think if I understand correctly, again, this is based on the time constraint and the staff, what they can do with the current situation. That's the reality of it. Okay.
Let's try to understand what the scope was.
Any other question? Sorry.
To understand what the scope of what we had left out was. So it looks like some of the things on that list were actually moved to other, as part of operational items, and then there was probably 2 or 3 things that we're not really seriously touching.
Well, also the programs and events thing, because it is COVID, those are so different now. The challenges with trying to, of course, we're going to assess those programs through COVID as well, and come up with that. We're happy to hear any recommendations any of you have on teen programs, senior programs, engagement of any kind, marketing ideas that you have. We just think it would be challenging to try and, talk about annual events when they're not happening at this point in time, when we have all these other things that we could be focusing on. That was the thought behind it.
Great.
Good, thank you. That clarification was useful. Now, the use of athletic fields and parks is already part of our discussion for the DOLA, right? It's kind of, it's in.
So the field use policy is actually specifically for those entities, those groups that purchase a permit for use of the fields. So your soccer teams, your baseball teams, you know, whatever teams are utilizing the field, they have to purchase a permit to access. And so, like I had mentioned, that policy to facilitate that has not been updated since 2004. So staff embarked on reviewing that, but the community engagement, stakeholder engagement is just not as robust as I would like it to be before providing a recommendation to you all to move it forward.
Does that help, Commissioner Barbu? So then I think other commissioners have a question, so I can move on.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. And Commissioner Turnbull?
Yeah, so I'm actually, I had a couple of specific questions. One is regarding the all-inclusive playgrounds. I understand that the fundraising for the remainder, I know they had already said that the city already committed to a certain amount of money. It was the funding of the remainder that was the issue. It was my understanding that at some point in time, there were RFPs that were actually already sent out to organizations that we could potentially partner with. And the reason that we hadn't just jumped on Magical Bridges was because we needed to do the legal process to actually find that partner. So I'm actually curious what happened with that, because if the hang up is fundraising, Magical Bridges, and there's two other organizations that I am pretty sure have already had at one point reached out to the city. I'm just curious, like, what exactly happened there, so that I understand a little bit more as to why it's pushed. Because to me, construction, when it's shelter in place, is such a good idea. So
yeah, no, agreed. So my understanding, and again, I don't have that much of an understanding, and so I'm probably going to have to get back with more information to you. But my understanding is that it's an over a $5 million project, and there's still over $2 million that needs to be raised in order to move forward. And so I don't know where the city was in the process of that fundraising process. I just don't know enough information.
I'm pretty sure they had already sent out the RFPs. So it would be great if we could do a check-in on that and see kind of what ended up happening. Because right now there are a lot of people saving a lot of money sitting at home, and now is quite a time to take advantage of people being at home to support the community in other efforts. So I think that we could really get this thing off the ground during COVID. So the other two questions I had, we're the ones who wrote the project objective, if I remember correctly.
I wasn't here for that, so I don't know exactly. I apologize.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty sure that our department wrote the project objectives that were submitted for this. And so I wanted to understand a little bit more. I recognize that the project objective for DOLA is currently listed as provided that the trial period is successful. I think I'm actually the one who encouraged that particular line and would love to now remove it because of COVID. I think that there's a ton of people at homes with their dogs, and I want to know if this is feasible in other areas sooner than if DOLA is actually permanent in Jollyman Park, because maybe something, there's a bunch of community members who move into the Jollyman. Okay, I'm getting into discussion.
Yeah. So
and then the last question.
Okay.
I just want to make one comment, and I may be wrong in this, but this was already adopted for the city work program. So the things that were already adopted, I've just brought back onto this list. And so my understanding is that since it's been adopted onto the city work program, that we would just approve it as part of our work program and we wouldn't make changes to it. But I can get additional clarification on that.
That would be good. Because the whole point is that we're reassessing this because of COVID. And so if there's something in their work plan that should change as a result of COVID, such as this, then I think it makes perfect sense to figure out if we can expand the scope of DOLA, even if it's just like 1 or 2 more parks.
I believe this is actually a revision of the original work program that was approved. I think they actually already brought it back and revised it with COVID considerations, and this is the result of that.
So we basically don't really have a choice.
Well, if I can just add, I'm sorry. The use of athletic fields in parks, a piece of that was also to evaluate if there are any opportunities due to field availability to be considered for a DOLA at another site. So that was another part of that particular item. Because remember, part of that review of that policy is we used to have blanket policies. Should we continue with the blanket policy? Because what we may determine is that there are some sites that we are able to free up access. Therefore, it could be considered as another location for a DOLA. So I'm not sure if I'm confusing the situation or if I hopefully have provided some clarity. But my recollection is that item is also providing some opportunities for future DOLA sites.
Okay, no, for me it's clear. And Commissioner Tambe, thank you, Christine. Do you have one more clarifying question, or that's pretty much Tambe?
No, that was it. I'm still
Okay.
a little confused, but cool.
Thank you, appreciate it. And I think Commissioner Stanek, you are next. I unmuted you. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I don't know if, are we in discussion? I have some comments on the way some of...
the clarification questions, but if no other questions, I do have 2 questions. Maybe if that is okay, Stanek, I can just finish my question and then we can get into a quick comment section before we...
Well, so I'm not sure if this is a clarifying question or not, and it has to do with the way the project objectives are written. And in particular, so the Rancho Rinconada, just the way it's written, it starts at if Rancho Rinconada is absorbed by the city. And we're not there yet, but we're doing a whole lot of work. We have a subcommittee to determine if we should recommend that to the council. So it seems to me that a big piece of our work and our work program is missing in that statement of our work program. And that's to determine, a recommendation to the council if Rancho Rinconada should be absorbed.
Okay, so the question is, maybe I think Director Chairman, so before you join, so this is formulated. So the question is, it's already assuming that it is, if it is observed, that means, but even for that, whether we need to observe or not, there is a committee we're working on, they'll come with a recommendation, a lot of the work is already happening. And that's not called that. Maybe is that as an operational activity behind the scene of this one, or I think that may be the question. Sorry, Stan, I just trying to add, I had a similar question on mine too, so that's what I'm trying to add to your question.
Well, I think, this unfortunately was my first city council meeting that I attended the first week of work. And so I didn't really have a whole lot of background on many of these items. But I think that the thinking is that, yes, we need to make a recommendation prior to this, but that if the recommendation is that we absorb it, that this would need to occur. So it's almost like they're 2 items, but they're really one precedes the other.
Yeah, it just seems incomplete to me. I mean, it certainly seems incomplete on the city council's work plan, because they have to make that decision first of whether to absorb it as well.
It might not be like a work program item per se for them, for you all to determine the recommendation, but more so that once a recommendation is given, and if that recommendation is to proceed with aquatics programs at the site, then analyzing that.
Okay, so maybe I want to touch on this too, but maybe let's go to the discussion. But before that, I do have, sorry, Commissioner Stanek, do you have any other questions before I go to a couple of my questions?
No, go ahead. I have other comments, so So that's
Thank
fine.
you. So two quick questions. Number one, is there any public request for DOLA on any other parks? I know this particular Jollyman Park, and there is a community member. That's all we talk to them. That's all we hear from them. Do we have any request from any other community members who are attached to any other parks? Do we have any official request?
Not based on the information that I have, but I've only been here a month, so I don't know if there have been additional recommendations, but I would assume that would have been included in the documentation that we provided, because all of that is being kind of kept in one place.
Okay.
Unless I'm incorrect, Whitney, if you want to correct me.
That's my understanding as well.
Yeah, can I comment on that, Gopal?
Please, Commissioner.
So if you go back to our discussions, what we were doing, this particular Jollyman group came forward because they were getting ticketed by code enforcement.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And that is the potential at all of our parks, because we know there are off-leash dogs at all of our parks. So the idea, as I remember and as we've discussed, is that we would do this trial at Jollyman Park to see how it would go. And then if it's successful, evaluate across the city how it would work.
Okay.
And so we weren't really at that time looking for input. I mean, if we had some, that would certainly be an opportunity of how to prioritize it. But we were going to look at it from a staff perspective and say, where are there opportunities from fields being available, so that we can direct people who are already doing whatever they want and don't have the forethought maybe to come and request it.
Okay.
The other thing, just to point out really quickly, is the DOLA topic is also included in the master park plan. So that was part of the community engagement.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Commissioner Stanek and Director Joan. One next question I have is on the Park and Rec strategic plan. I know you listed a few things, and it says that some of them are in progress with whatever the constraints we have. Do we, since we moved a lot of things into virtual, a lot of things are not happening in person, and any of those things are getting amended there, or as it comes into operational? Because all the programs, I assume, based on your original other slide, that any program changes or virtual from in place of in-person, I think will be covered under operational events and programs. Is that right? That's the reason. So this will not be modified. My question is, do we plan to modify the strategic plan items? I know there are a lot many items you listed out. I noted only a few more. My question is,
specifically the strategic plan, it seems very straightforward about identifying different opportunities, basically for low-hanging fruit, in order to upgrade parks. So
excellent, thank you. So with that, I think let's move on to comments and discussions. And I think I know Commissioner Stanek, you actually started with it, so let me start with you. You want to add any comment or anything on the discussion? So before I go to the other commissioners.
Oh, so you're coming to me?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Actually, it would be useful to keep up that that one slide, because so I look back at the what the project objective was based on the commission input on the dog off leash area. And what the original project objective that was submitted was analyze the ongoing pilot program at Jollyman Park, and assuming it's successful, duplicating the program at other city facilities. So that is plural, is the first thing that strikes me. And if we look at the project objective here, the words are kind of moved around a bit, but the one thing that jumps out at me is it says, and establish one such area if the current trial period is successful. So it says identify additional areas suitable and establish one such area. So to me, it's not clear to me if establish one such area, does that mean Jollyman? If we do that, are we done? And then the other thing is it's inconsistent with the performance goal, where it says, assuming no significant issues at Jollyman, identify additional sites and establish at least one more DOLA. which I think is somewhat more in line with our original intent. And so we have a little bit of just a tactical issue here, I think, is that what's happened is, it's sort of a little game of telephone tag or something, is it hasn't been translated from what we had in our proposal to what got on the council program. It was wordsmithed, and from what I've looked, and I didn't listen to every word, but I don't think there was a lot of discussion about this. It's not like the council had a big discussion of we only want one. And so I think it was our intention to be reviewing it wherever it makes sense, to the extent that we can get to it, right? And so I'd just like to see how can we bring those things together to bring it back in line. And I think there's inconsistency right here in the table in any case.
I would agree with you, but I also don't want to get stuck in the weeds. So
right.
Just if I could just make a recommendation again, I think that this would only apply to this coming year's work program, which it may not even happen that we have one, let alone another one to advise on. So we can always make sure that in the future that this is updated to be reflective of what we really wanted to say. But I would also say that the dog off leash area is also included in the master park plan. So I think that utilizing that document to back up any decisions that are made would also be applicable or appropriate.
I guess it concerns me. I don't want us to be limited by the definition of the project objective.
Yeah, so, sorry, I think nobody else. So maybe let me also add a comment on that, Director. So just supporting what Commissioner Snanek said. The objective and the performance can be one as the let for this year it's one, right? Maybe one more. For this year, let's do Jollyman and maybe the other one. But we'll continue because the overall objective was to do it as many places as possible, not just stop at one. So I think I do feel that I wrote down specifically two in general. I think the first one, the objective could be like once it is there, we will allow this dollar in many places as much as possible. But I think the performance, maybe you're going to measure it as Jollyman plus one to start with, but you will be continuing because the objective also says one and performance one. That means it stops there. I think that's how I read it too. Maybe I think we will leave it to you, but again, this is going to be like long. It's going to be changing too, but that's original objective when it is formed is that we wanted to use this one, but we would like to explore as many places as possible needed. But let's try one. But we will not stop at one more, and then we will continue. So that was my comment as well.
So can I just offer, so the rewording potentially of the project objective under the dog off leash area would be to identify additional areas suitable for permitting dogs to be off leash and establish other areas if the current trial period is successful?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That would be helpful because you can measure the performance with one or a two in this year, that's okay. But we want to make sure it's a routine repeated. Next year, 2022, 2021, 22, it will continue to explore. So I think what your changes, that clarifies with the original objective when we all met. So.
Yeah,
and then
I
we
like
can
that
also we can also include that in the performance goal instead of at least one more, just establish other DOLAs.
Perfect. And another commissioner won't talk, but in the meantime, since I started, I do have one more comment or request since it came in, especially on the Rancho area. So it'll be great, not now, but later, Director, I think maybe we can sit together and see how it is possible to arrive at against each one of them. If there are actions to be taken prior to achieve these, for example, Rancho, we need to really go for a recommendation to see whether we need to observe or not. There are a lot of behind the scene activity need to be done, which are prerequisites to be done for any of these. It'll be good to have another column to call out, okay, these are the actions to be done before it goes to the council. It'll be good for us to track oh, is there a commission involved in it? Do we need to spend time? And do we need to really approve anything before it goes? Or we don't have to do anything kind of. It will be good to see what commission's actions or needs against each one of them, if at all any, like the one rancher.
We can certainly update this grid for our purposes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's for our purposes, not necessarily to be given to the council, but we know that, oh, because council will need these 1, 2, 3 items from the commission before they really want, because otherwise we'll be stuck. So at least if we could get that alert, and so that we can start working on it. That's only one comment I had it. And I think Commissioner Tambe, so you have it.
Awesome. So looking at this, I think it's a pretty sizable amount of work that we have ahead of us. I think the strategic plan and Rancho Rinconada in particular are going to be, quite hefty projects. Looking forward to seeing what we come up with Rancho Rinconada, although who knows what's happening over there right now because there's no real oversight. But it's going to be, I think those are really sizable. The thing that I am actually kind of curious about was the state of the trails. And the reason that I wanted to bring that up in particular is, well, a couple of reasons. So in the transportation section of the city work plan, item number 6, they're talking about like traffic and traffic mitigation. And I actually think that our state of the trails is a big, agenda item is a big, not even agenda item, but project is actually pretty large in contributing to that, because our commission can be tasked with land use and land acquisition, and that includes things like walking trails and biking and things that are really essential to our community. And we see that, especially with COVID, we need to create more areas in our community that make it possible for people to safely walk and for people to safely ride their bikes. And so I don't want to see that folded into a collaboration with another commission, because we have more jurisdiction in terms of creating some of those connection points. Connectivity was one of the major points in our master plan that was adopted by the city council. And so I want to make sure that we are staying true to that. And so I would actually like to add that specific item back onto our commission's work plan, is state of the trails. And, when the city council looks at it, specifically referencing the transportation section, item number 6, because this has a direct relationship with that. And then the second thing is the marketing research and implementation. I think the presentation we had got was fabulous. I think that I'm really glad we had a chance to go through that. The thing that I think would actually be particularly useful, and I'm not particularly married to putting this back on our agenda, but the reason I do think it needs to be a priority is that if we're already seeing things like low enrollment numbers for our in-person kids camps, maybe there is something that we can be doing. Some of the best practices, there was a lot of virtualization and a lot of like digital comms training and things like that were in that marketing review that was done of our programming that might actually help drive up some of our numbers if we were to implement the changes that we had hired this guy to tell us to do. And so I'm just thinking from like a revenue generation perspective, that if we can utilize that marketing component a little bit more, then perhaps that will actually help us with the money component. So those are actually 2 that I would like to see back on. But other than that, like, it seems like, the all-inclusive playground RFP situation is a little bit confused right now. And so we do need a lot more clarification. And I believe the council already postponed that until 2021 anyway. So maybe that, I don't really think that's a drummed over beat. Makes me very sad that we're not progressing on that, especially when we had worked so hard to bring that to fruition. I was really hoping to see that completed by the time I finished my second term, but it would be great to see the state of the trails, especially with COVID, the state of the trails and the marketing plan back on. But Director, if you feel like you're really comfortable incorporating the marketing plan pretty aggressively, then I'm not super committed to that one in particular.
So if I might just comment quickly on both of those items. So just for clarification on the status of the trails, just as far as the project objective that I'm looking at states connectivity to the city recommendation. So the commission would be recommending land purchases, park acquisition, and understanding of where community is adequate and lacking for trails. Correct. Okay, just wanted to make sure that that was accurately portrayed, so that if we add this item on, that there's a record of what it actually states is the project objective. And then for the marketing plan, a lot of it is associated with operations, and since operations are so askew, but you know, not that I don't disagree with, you know, having to you know, rethink and pivot on marketing, considering the state that we're in. I mean, we'll always be doing that for sure. But you know, again, I'm happy to include that if that's what the commission feels is part of what they want to have on their work program.
Yeah, I mean, it's really I do think it's really an ops thing. I would also like to make sure that, like, if that's something that is a focus or that is focused on in the department as well, that, like, you guys get the credit for, you know, checking that one box off of a list of things to add. So, you know, if it's low hanging fruit, I think it's okay.
Well, yeah, no.
That's the only reason. Otherwise, I'm not too committed to that. But I would like to actually see the state of the trails back on the work plan.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. And I see Commissioner Zhu, so you are up next. I just unmuted you.
Actually, I'm not clear about what the discussion is. So now, is it okay for us to discuss something not on the list, or we still focus on this list?
You know, I think, yes, because we left out few things, and the proposal is that, I mean, the ask is that we go with only these 4 + 2 from the last, but I think Commissioner Tambe said, okay, we may have to add one more from the whole list. And so, yeah, if you have any comments on it, if you think that's something else, Commissioner Tambe.
I remember last year we talked about maybe because Memorial Park, those pool has no water, and maybe we can put some equipment there for some temporary use for entertainment of community members. And at that time, I remember our director said, because that's only a small project, it's not in the work plan, because the work plan something with more large budget. So I'm just wondering, because more and more residents, they're concerned about the Memorial Park. They just hope maybe we can have some temporary use of the pool area. They just wonder when our city can do something at that place. So I just want to bring it up. Yeah, no other comments.
Yeah, I think this is on the strategic plan again. Many items are listed, Director Joanne, if you look into it. The Memorial Park is one of them, like Blackberry Farm, but of course, Memorial Park is one of them inside. It was there because we just collected all those consent, and I think the question is on that one.
Yeah, and actually, I remember our city started some discussion on some temporary use, some options. And a group of students, they gave some presentation last year, and the director said, because it's a small project, maybe staff can do something, without, their own decision. Yeah, so I just want to check the progress.
Sorry, Director, go ahead, please.
Oh, no, that was me. I just wanted to actually, Commissioner Mina, we actually, exactly following that mentality, we're starting to do work on the strategic plan, and we'll hopefully be able to get a special meeting on the books for that, and not wait until August, but we're dividing, up till now, we're planning on dividing the strategic plan into 2 components, long-term and short-term. And short-term is the idea that within the next 6 months, we're going to be able to implement like small project changes throughout not just Memorial Park and the pond area, but also other areas around Cupertino. So definitely, yes, totally agree with you. And on the path, hopefully by the end of the year, we will see several of these smaller projects implemented across, but that's going to be coming back up on the commission agenda soon.
Okay,
Excellent.
thank you.
Thank you. So if that is the case, I don't see any more hands raised. So I did see some minor amendments. So can someone go ahead and ask for a motion?
Oh,
or?
Sure, why not? I move to approve the work plan with the addition of the state of the trails for the including Blackberry Farm, DOLA, Rancho Rinconada, strategic plan, state of the trails, and the 2 carryovers from last year, field use policy as well as community garden, for our commission work plan for the fiscal year 2020-2021.
I do, like I can second, but I cannot amend it right now, right? Because it's your motion. So I'm trying to find out the DOLA things we talked about. I want to know where will that be added or not? Otherwise, I'll hold on.
Since there's no second, I'll quickly add with the project objective of DOLA modified according to the previously stated vernacular.
I second it. So then I think if any further discussion on this, the motion actually proposed and seconded, any discussions from any commissioners? I think you're tired to raise your hand. It's okay, I understand. If that is the case, let's go for a vote. Stephanie, please.
Chair Kumarapan,
Yes.
Vice Chair Stanek,
Yes.
Commissioner Tombe,
Yes.
Commissioner Shu,
Yes.
Commissioner Begor.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
That's awesome. I think, Director Juan, I think both of them, you brought it, both of them passed unanimously. It's very rare to get unanimous one. So your first one is amazing. You've done an amazing job. Thank you. So with that, I know. So the next item is a new business, and we didn't have anything specifically because we know that these are very passionate, long items. So we just wanted to finish this off before we bring a new business. So there's no new business. And let's move on to item number 6, staff and commission reports. Other than what we talked about it, maybe directors, is there any other reports you have for us?
I have nothing else to say tonight except for have a happy 4th of July.
Thank you. Appreciate it. No, this itself is a lot. I think if you're going to go for one more report, I thought, oh my God, she has so much will and power and more sleepless. No, we don't want it further. So thank you. Appreciate it. Then we are moving on to Commissioner's report. I do see Commissioner Champe. So you have something to report?
Great. Yeah, we actually had a meeting of the subcommittee for the strategic plan. And I wanted to make sure to report back on that. We will ideally be looking to get a special meeting on the books, so prepare your calendars. And the primary reason for that is that that conversation is going to be taking us from, hey, this is a review of the master plan. This is the review of the community and get the thousands and thousands of people that we've surveyed. And then this is what the goal of the strategic plan is. And then we're actually going to be bringing how we plan on approaching that strategic plan. So as I mentioned, we're going to have the short-term and long-term list. Short-term with the goal of 3 months, 6 months, 12-month, and 2-year. And then the long-term objective, which is farther out, 5-year, 10-year, 15-year, 20-year, because that's how long the master plan is supposed to be going. But that's really hefty. And a lot of that meeting is just going to be us getting our heads collectively wrapped around so we all understand, what's happening where. And actually Commissioner Mina had made a really great recommendation of getting a list of things that we're going to do, and that whole full list. So we're working on putting that together, and we have a lot of that listed out so that we can actually see what parks have what are the things that community members have asked for, and how does that relate to the short-term, long-term plan. So that's the strategic plan subcommittee meeting from my perspective. I know Carol might have a couple of things that I forgot on her list. And then the second thing is that Oh, I'm really excited that we actually did a meeting in July. I'm excited that we did a meeting in July. I know normally like there's so many in-person things going on. It's really stressful for the staff. And it's still stressful for the staff to have a meeting in the middle of July because there's still so much going on. So I just wanted to at least give an appreciation for, having this additional, what is scheduled, but typically we don't have meeting on our books. So I just wanted to say, I appreciate that. And we're getting a lot done a little bit faster. So thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. And I have Mr. Stanek, please.
So I guess one question I have is how will we go about setting up that meeting, our special meeting for the strategic plan? Is that something we're going to send around a doodle to sign up, or can we talk about availability tonight?
I would just like to say there was another community meeting scheduled for next week where our teen commission meeting got moved because it was scheduled on the same night. So if you wouldn't mind if Whitney and I look at our schedules and then the city schedule, and then we'll send out an email to find out what works best for everybody. I apologize. We just couldn't get our act together by tonight to have that available.
Okay. So yeah, that's an important one for us. And we didn't, there wasn't a thought to do it tonight. And so you're welcome that we're not doing that tonight.
Thank you.
I also want to say I did attend the council meeting where they reviewed the community funding, and so I represented the commission at that. And so it was very interesting to hear their discussion on our recommendation, and I know that Whitney sent out their decision. It turns out they were in a very generous mood. And so I think that is something that we can learn from in terms of what is the council looking for from us in terms of the community funding, that they're really looking to support programs. And the fact that they went for all of tier 1, all of tier 2, and 50% of all the other projects, even though they weren't presented to them, was very generous of them. And there was one other thing I was going to say about that, and now I can't quite remember. But yeah, so that was good news for the community.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. And I think, Commissioner, you are there.
Sorry,
I tried on it.
I just want to update what the subcommission for Rancho Riconata, and we had a meeting with our director and the staff last week, and we talked about the survey went out in April and review the result, and we talk about maybe some potential improvement for next survey or some future community outreach. And because of the COVID-19, the restrictions, we cannot do those community outreach. So we decided this is not so urgent. So maybe in next or maybe following commission meeting, we'll share information with the commission.
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner. Any other reports? I don't see it. Commissioner Bahu, I don't see things. I don't have anything specific except that, it was a bumpy ride today. I thought I'm going to miss it, but I made it, and then a lot many drama, and then I just boarded the flight just 1 minute before. They said they're really calling on it and said that you need to jump in. So we were really rushing. I'm glad I made it. It was a fantastic thing. Great. Yep, absolutely. Thank you.
Really quick before we hang up, can I take a photo of us all? You want to perk up and smile before we hit 10 o'clock? Okay, cool. Thank you. Thanks. Okay.
Awesome. And I saw the dinner served, and I was literally hungry now. I said, I wish. And I was looking at my door, and it's slammed, and nobody is even near. I thought there may be footsteps. Nothing. So it's okay. Good that you got the dinner, Commissioner Tambe. So.
Oh, one more thing. July is Parks Make Life Better month. Is that correct? And so that's important for us and our community and our staff.
Where did you get that?
On the commission a few years ago, our director gave us things like that.
Oh, okay.
Duly noted, duly noted.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for, Dr. Joanne noting down saying that yes, we need to. Got it. Thank you.
We may have some hidden away there, Joanne.
Section
Some extras there.
Excellent. Thank you.
Everybody
So-
have a good holiday weekend.
Yeah,
We
so
do
one,
have
Thank you.
so before we adjourn, try to formally adjourn. Before that, I see the commission attendance at upcoming meetings and events. I see the line.
Yes.
What is that one, please? I want to
We
know the
discussed
staff.
the attendance at the mayor's meeting, which is this month. So we had gone through the list, and I think Commissioner Shu was not in attendance at the one meeting that we had established up to this date, the attendance of those meetings. So the next meeting is on July 15th from 5:30 to 6:30, and we do need to make sure that we have a commissioner in attendance.
Looks like the Commissioner Tambe raised her hand. You have it. And the Commissioner, you said you also wanted to, or no?
Let me check the time.
Oh, you're totally welcome to if you want to go, but nobody raised their hand, so I did.
Yeah.
Can we get a schedule that goes out a couple months and then we
Yeah.
can all sign up?
It's actually been hit or miss on date because of Zoom and whatnot. So we originally had a set date, but it's been changing monthly.
Would you mind, at least if you get one right now, Whitney, so at least if you get one person, you or Tambe for this one, the rest of it, like we earlier did, doodle kind of so that we can pick and choose. I think that's what we did, I believe, the first time. If you could do it, we can have like 3 or 4 meetings. We just have people
Wait,
not in that.
sorry, Whitney, you mean like the actual date of the meeting is randomly changing?
Yeah, it has changed the past couple months.
Okay, because I mean, we're all home. Anyways, I'm tired. I'm sorry.
Anyway, so for now, let's
They are
pick one.
July 15 is okay for me.
Yeah, July 15th, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that is okay. I'm okay.
Okay, I'll provide your information to the city manager's office.
Excellent. And then, Whitney, it will be great if you could send it out to a doodle one for the next August, September, October, whatever, that'll be great. Wow, with that, I think this is what I think everybody's looking for. So I call the meeting to adjourn on 9:56.
Awesome.
Oh my God, I'm already 3 hours ahead now, 2 hours ahead. I'm already dizzy now. So anyway, thank you. Have a great July 4th and enjoy.
Thank
Have a good
you.
night.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Bye.
Bye.